Why dance around it?
All right, whatever.
There are bad AVGN ripoffs.
Yeah, but then like they have like 2-minute intros, and it's like he's a guy and he plays a game, and it's like just showing like their entire fucking collection of games, and it's just literally like them bringing it up to the camera.
Yeah.
And then it'll just be like, Dragon's Lair is a game on the You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Crastinators podcast. I am Digi Bro. I'm going to be your host for today, and I have with me my co-hosts and friends, Mr. Jesse Wood.
Roast beef and whiskey.
Roast beef and whiskey. Hypocrite.
Satan.
The best guy ever, also known as Nate.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And the Devoo.
Oh yeah.
And today we're going to be talking about the subject of reviewer rules. Now, to explain what I mean by this,
rule.
We sure
they
do.
do.
That's the subject.
We are the best. To explain what I mean by reviewer rules, this is sort of a multi-part subject that we're going to go through one part and then the other. The first part is going to be about rules that reviewers have for themselves or that people have for reviewers about how reviews are made.
Rule number 1, don't be a reviewer. Do literally anything else creative.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good rule. And the second half of this podcast, we'll be talking about the rules which reviewers apply to shows. What rules they have about what makes a show good and things like that. And a lot of this is probably going to be us coming at these rules from a critical perspective of the rules themselves.
Yes.
To start with, Devoo, I wanted you to talk about there's something that you called the reviewer rule that me and you get in our comments all the time and that we laugh about whenever we get it. Do you remember this?
Is this like a definition
No.
that people post or something?
No,
You got-
Devoo used to always complain because it's the you have to be objective rule.
Oh, that one.
Sure. Okay.
It's the rule where they say, "Oh my God, this video is not objective and therefore it's bad," or you're not being very objective, or
It's
you're
a rule
this
that
is all-
carries
you know what's
over
funny
from
about
a
that?
previous time. It's a rule that carries over from back in the days of, well, the current, the still living days of Consumer Reports. They think you're supposed to be a
Yes.
Consumer Reports guy. They think you're supposed to be
You know,
an interviewer guy on the news media.
It's funny
it's
to
not
me
the
that
same
people
thing.
still. It's funny to me that people still make that kind of like demand, because like we've seen they've sort of popularized like these objective reviews that are, Steven Universe is a 10-minute long show. It airs on
Yeah.
Cartoon Network. It was written by Rebecca Sugar, and like all
Objective
that shit.
facts, yay.
And those are funny, but like it's because you don't want that. You want their spin on
Well,
it.
yeah, the perfect criticism of the objective review was done by Jim Sterling. His perfectly objective review of Final Fantasy 13, where it's just
Oh,
him
yeah.
describing the game and like making no value judgments at all. And I think, yeah, there's a lot more people who understand that reviews aren't all about objectivity now. But yeah, like Devoo said, people treat it like consumer reviews. And like,
Yeah.
and Devoo would always contact me and be like, "Oh, I broke the reviewer rule. They're telling me I broke the reviewer rule."
Oh,
And they
you've
come
been
up with
outed
all
as a
sorts
hack,
of
Devoo.
rules. Sometimes the rules get very specific. Like,
Yeah.
your roller coaster video is bad because you talk about this aspect of the game first and the other aspect later. You're supposed to do it in this specific way. Didn't you know? Didn't you get the memo? And I'm like, no, I didn't.
Yeah, the thing about it, and Devoo, you had made this point to me very well, where it's that these people who come to you with these rules, they don't know your goals. They have their ideas of what you're supposed to be doing
That's
that
true.
have nothing to do with what you think you're supposed to be doing. People will come out and be like, "Oh, your reviews aren't very objective," and I'm like, "Well, they're not supposed to be. If you want objective reviews, go find another guy. Like, that's not what I'm doing
I
here."
think you're
That's not
totally
what this
right.
is.
That's interesting, because I remember the first time. I really think the first time I got into this at all was when my brother linked me Jesse's. What was it? Crystal Empire review, like the Colt Corona one.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the first review I ever really saw that was like way more than like just talking about the thing. And it totally, once I got into that, I got into all this other shit. And it totally changed my perspective and made me look for a lot more out of reviews. It was like, holy shit, they can do all this shit. And I like to think that I try to incorporate into
But
the
you
stuff
didn't
that I do
complain
today.
that it wasn't the kind of video you're used to. I think a lot of these critical people think of
I
themselves.
didn't get it at first.
This is the
It took a little while.
This is a metaphor that Digi came up with in a vlog of his, where these people like to think of themselves as they come into a sandwich place and they they tell the cook, hey, it's the bread's a little bit burnt here and there, the meat's a little bit dry here and there. But really what they're doing is they're going into a sandwich place and saying, this pizza is very weird.
Sure.
Yeah, and they don't get that they're doing that, and they want reviews to be a very specific thing. They have a very specific idea of what it's supposed to be in their head, and they come in with their rules, trying to apply them to your video, but here's the thing, is that a lot of them are reviewers, and a lot of reviewers themselves follow these same rules and have these same ideas about what reviews are.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
When you watch people, like, everyone seems to have their own ideas about, like, this is how you're supposed to score a show, and this is like,
Oh god,
you
nothing
have to...
disgusts me more than like these arbitrary ass like at Glass Reflections is the end of his, and he's like, after doing the maths, I have calculated this is
Yeah.
like a 2.5 episode. It's like, shut up, dude. Just say it's pretty good. Or
Yeah,
shit.
and I used to have stuff like that when I was younger. Like, I was obsessed with scoring systems, and I would try to come up with ones that were like, all right, well, in my value system, story is worth this much, and characters are worth this much, and this is worth that much, and I do run all these calculations and stuff, and then in the end, I realized
fool's
that
errand.
I'm pretty clearly skewing my scores so that it will produce the result I already want.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I watch a show and I'm like, that was like a 9 out of 10, and then I start doing math and I'm like, 8.7. No, I gotta. Well, I guess the characters were a little better than that. Just like try
That
to
is
rig
a
it.
very telling exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. And those things, you can't just weigh each thing like how the fuck do you separate characters from story? Like, how do you make those two different scores? That doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
Like the story is the characters and vice versa. So it's really weird to try to do that kind of thing.
Do you think it'd be good to go around and talk about what we each sort of like to see in an ideal review?
Yeah, well, first I want us to talk about stuff that we've seen other people do that they consider rules that we don't like.
Sure,
do you have any of those things where when other people say something in their review about like how they do it that you think, why are you doing it that way?
I think one thing that so many of them do, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's a lot more interesting when they just leave it out, is the info dump at the beginning. Where they just talk about all the different things about the game,
rails
setting it up.
against the info dump.
It's
It's
Yeah.
just
the
not
worst
interesting. Even if I
thing.
don't know about the game, I'd rather you just, like, Devu's videos are very good. They just get straight to the point, and you talk about, like, a weird thing, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I don't know anything about this game, but now I want to find out,
I personally struggle with the info dump because I kind of enjoy hearing it. If they can do it in a quick, entertaining way, I kind of like it.
Matthew
I
Matosis
don't
does
know.
it well, partly
Yeah, he
because
does.
his videos are long enough to warrant some establishment stuff. If your
Well,
video is
yeah,
5 minutes
yeah.
long and you spend 30 seconds establishing the facts,
Right,
you're wasting
right.
our time.
It's a matter of, like, what am I coming to you for? Because, again, like you said, the biggest problem is that people think of their stuff as consumer reviews. And
Right.
it's all, like, they're trying to sell you something. And so they feel like they have to tell you what the show is and then tell you whether it's good or not based on their ideas, which, of course, a lot of them don't think of as their opinion. They think of it as they have specific rules that we'll get into later in this podcast about what makes a show good, But, like... That whole system is like, if I want the summary, I can go get that. If I want to know what in general the anime is about, I can go read the chart and I'll already know. So when they start off with like 3 minutes of literally describing the show, I'm like, okay, I want it. I came to your video to hear your opinion of the show. I already know what the show's about. I have 1,000 sources for that.
And what's strange is how confident a lot of these people are in the professionalism and informativeness of their content. And I've just now realized maybe that's partly because the top dog video game YouTubers are first and foremost Let's Players who don't do a whole lot more than scream. So they think, well, if I even have a script, I'm miles above them. And then, of course, the second tier
suppose
is
so.
the normal boots hidden block people. And those people a lot of them, most of the time, just play a game and make a bunch of jokes. So they're like, well, if I talk about anything of substance whatsoever, I'm brilliant. And I talked to one reviewer who was
on an
like,
artistic level, it's true. That's the thing. A lot of people don't really seem to set out to make something like like Jesse did, which is something that's like big and like entertaining in itself and tells its own story. A lot of people are just like, I want to talk about the game. I think people want to hear about it, and it doesn't really matter how I do it, and that's fine. You can do that. But,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think,
once I learned that there's all this other shit you can do when you're doing it, it was like, Jesus Christ, everybody's playing checkers, but I've been playing chess for years.
I think there's a sort of mentality among, like, a lot of reviewers where it's just, like, okay, I am a reviewer now, and therefore I have to give my opinion on everything in my purview.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like, I am now an anime reviewer, so I must review every anime. And then it's just sort of they review whatever comes under their purview, like, you know, like a Glass Reflections type, where he just, like, anything that's big and popular, he reviews it, you know, and he feels the need to apply the exact same formula to every review and review every show.
Well,
and,
you know, I never got the idea that he thought anything more of himself than just an informative anime guy. So, like,
Yeah,
I
but
think he's
that's
achieving his goals, you know?
Yeah,
Now,
sure.
let me
but,
devil's
like,
advocate here a little bit, Digi. What is this you speak of? You speak of don't just talk about whatever comes into your purview. Are you implying that there needs to be, or should be, ideally, some sort of relevance or point to a video in its context of when it came out and the culture it's in?
Yeah, I think
Tell me
I
about
think
this.
if you make a review, it should be like I said this. I ranted about this in my Bloodborne Let's Play, but like in episode 3, if anyone's curious, because I go on a huge rant and it's awesome. But like I was talking about how if your review of a show, like the end of it is that you say that there was nothing interesting about the show, then there's nothing interesting about your review. You know, like I think,
guess you could say why it's not interesting in a very entertaining way. It's possible.
I don't think you. I think you can describe why you don't like something.
Yeah.
But if that would make it interesting, you know, like
Sure.
like for instance, I've done this huge video series on the Asterisk War, and while my conclusion is that the show is unbelievably boring, the way that it's boring is interesting.
Right.
Like the way that they fuck up and everything, the way that everything's done. But if you watch a show and you're like, nothing about it was like really stood out to me, then it's like, why did you have to tell us that? You know, like we don't need to know that about the show. Like,
Go watch his Bloodborne video for much more and much louder version of this
Yeah.
argument.
but like I just don't get why people feel like I feel like people decide that I'm a reviewer now and therefore I have to give my opinion on absolutely everything and then, you know, and apply the same system to everything. And the way I see it, every piece of art is different, right? And deserves its own. I guess now we could get into things we want to see from reviews, right?
Sure.
Like here's a big thing I want from reviews. I want you to watch the show or play the game or whatever, and then like talk about it in terms that make sense for that work. Like talk about it in a way that reflects what you're talking about. Not necessarily that you have to go crazy like my Serial Experiments Lane videos where it's like this huge experimental video style because it's the style of the anime, but like even if it's just like if you have a lot to say about one show, write a 2-hour video. If you have a little to say about it, write a 2-minute video. If it's a if it's a show that's like a comedy and you don't know how to talk about it in terms that you would talk about a drama, then don't talk about it in the terms you would as a drama. Talk about it in new, different ways, you know, and make each, like, that's why all my videos there's no structure to them. It's all like, this one is this long because that's the kind of show it is, and so, like, sometimes I talk about like one aspect of a show because it's the only interesting thing, and sometimes I talk about the whole show because all of it's interesting.
I think a big mistake that a lot of reviewers make, especially at a young age, like myself, is let's say they watch a movie and they think, wow, this is a 10 out of 10. This is my new favorite movie. And part of what I love about it is the character interaction. And so then they chisel it down in stone. To be a 10 out of 10, you must have great character interaction.
Yeah.
Because after all, how would that movie have achieved it? But there could very well be a movie that comes out that is a 10 out of 10 just on its ideas, its philosophy. But it may not have very good character interaction. So you give that other one a 10 if it excites you as much. Like Digi, you give a 10 out of 10 to Ghost in the Shell and Psychopaths, both cyberpunk shows, but one has better ideas and the other has a better story and characters.
Yeah. And we'll get into that particular point later because that's what I want to talk about with the rules reviewers have about shows. But for now, I want to know more about your structural. review ideas.
One thing that I think is a mistake a lot of people make, and I'm sure I have too, is and it's related to what you were just saying before. It's that thinking that everything they have to say, because they made it a video, is inherently going to be interesting, is going to be something worth watching. And that leads into my point. When I watch a review, maybe I'm spoiled now because I've watched so many great, entertaining reviews as art pieces themselves. I'm not really interested in just getting information. I'm specifically looking for a great piece of art, a big story told within the context of the review itself. And I'm always searching for my next Anthony C's A Canterlot Wedding, because not only was that extremely well made in most ways, Tom's voice sounds like shit just because the recording is bad, but it not only is it great, but it's got this incredible narrative that extends even beyond it into these previous videos that all tie up in this one punch that finally is delivered in that. But it also I forget what I was going to say. Whatever, it's really, really good, and that's what I look for. I want more of that. That is the pinnacle of what. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. It teaches me something that I had no idea about. It presents this argument that totally changes the way you could view this piece of work. That, yeah, I mean, you could have possibly thought this before, but it seems like something that, he did research and he, came up with justifications for why it could be true, and it was delivered in such an entertaining way that doesn't seem just like a shitty conspiracy theory. It feels like it could actually be something that was actually planned, and it's a perfect storm of all the things that I want, and I've yet to see a video since that day that really hit me as hard as that one.
And that video has a narrative of the reviewer, but there's also the reviewer can tell the narrative of the work. I think YMS is the most acclaimed in this one regard. He will, if he does one of his big YMS videos, often he talks more about the narrative of the movie's production and release more than the narrative of the movie's plot. In his the one with Will Smith and his son.
Yeah, and
he goes
ties
on
it
for
all in very well.
15 minutes just talking about the context and where it came out. So when you see a scene in that movie, you're not just thinking about the plot of the movie. You're thinking more about why Will Smith and M. Night Shyamalan put it there. And that's a story that doesn't even exist in the movie. It only exists in YMS's video.
And that's something that could only be introduced by a reviewer, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think
use the medium to its fullest, boyo.
That's right.
I think, for instance, Jesse Wood here is kind of the master of having the narrative of the videos is more interesting than the subject matter.
Yeah,
because when Jesse reviews something, I don't care what Jesse's opinion of the thing is. I care about how. Or I guess I should put it, not that I don't care about his opinion.
Jesse always boils his opinion down to it was good. I liked it, and that's it. And then it's everything else on top of it.
Yeah, the interesting thing about it isn't so much
I tend to use the thing I'm reviewing as a gateway to analyze myself.
Right. Yes, that's totally true.
And I love that because what I'm interested in is not what you're going to tell me about the show. I'm interested in what you're going to tell me about yourself through the show.
Because what is a show but a tool with which we learn about ourselves?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the main appeal. When I do my analysis videos, none of it is trying to get to the heart of what this show is and what it means and in terms of the creators I do like using creative intent. I enjoy putting that in. I enjoy looking at it and putting it into my reviews. But my goal is not to say how well did the guy who made this accomplish what he set out to do. My goal is to say why do I react to this the way that I do? Why does this make me feel the things I feel? Why do people why do other people feel the way they do about it, because like you said, the point of art really, the appeal of it is that it shows us something about ourselves, or it shows us something about the world.
That's kind of interesting that you say that, because I'm just now realizing the problem with a lot of the reviewers that talk more about the objective stuff, and the reason they're not as interesting is because they're not as egotistical. They don't think that they should make the videos about themselves at all.
Yeah, not even egotistical, but self-aware,
I guess.
Introspective.
Well, I don't think I do that at all. In my videos, I just make... I don't think so. I haven't... I haven't planned it.
You do incorporate, your specific I don't know, like your personality totally shines through in your reviews in a really great way.
I think with Hypocrite, I think it's built into the reviews because specifically of what games you talk about.
That's
because
true.
you have exclusively covered like PS2 and PS1 games that are from like a very specific type of era and genre. And I think that more than anything gives it a narrative, because like when I think of games Hypocrite likes, all I think is like he's into PS2 platformers, like it's like mascot platformers, games like that. And I think it inherently creates a narrative out of that. Like kind of like how did any of you guys feel back in the day with JonTron that whenever he talked about a modern game, it was really weird because you were used to him just talking about like Super Nintendo and N64 games?
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, and so when he'd talk about like a new game, it was like, oh, John. I mean, logically, he must play new games.
It doesn't feel as like JonTron when he did his like Final Fantasy 13 videos.
Or like that
I mean, it was
Counter-Strike
great, but
video.
Yeah.
It's always a little odd when he.
It's not what I expected. Yeah.
Or that Valiant Hearts video. That was the weirdest to me. Where it's just like some random indie game thing that he bought, and it's like, oh, I'm used to you talking about like nostalgia and talking about classic games and talking,
that was him
that
like
aspect.
defying his own like what he had determined as the reviewer rules for himself. That was him going. I mean, not that he had to. I'm just saying.
I don't mind it, but I'm just saying that I just think that he had inadvertently created a narrative out of his videos where if you've seen his top 10 Super Nintendo games, for instance, where he goes on like this long impassioned speech at the end about like why these games were so special and why why we feel nostalgia for them and stuff like that, and then like you look at all the rest of his videos and it's all these nostalgic games, and like it feels like that's what the point is in a way. And then when he starts talking about like movies, then it's like, oh, I guess you also cover weird movies. Like I don't.
True.
What
now
that
feels normal.
Doing?
But when he initially saw that, it was definitely it works for him though.
And
that's why Jesse has multiple channels for multiple narratives.
Yeah, but I don't think that's ever really helped. I think it always helps your. Well, I guess it depends on what you're doing, but in general, I think having him on one channel is helpful.
I don't know. I think it works out for Jesse because
for Jesse it worked out.
Each channel has such a distinct personality where it's like, I mean, you can tell they're all him, but like, My Japanese Animes is one type of video, and Endless Jess is not that type of video necessarily.
And by the way, we're not
but
all
how
just
many times do you
complimenting
see
each
like
other
on
because we're friends. We became friends because we like one another's videos. So there's a reason why we're so biased.
I think all my channels are less connected by content or less distinctive by content than they are by like theme or attitude.
Yeah. That's very true.
Shit, I forgot what I was gonna go on to.
We could let Gib give his thoughts. He says I don't think he really gave his about what he looks for out of a
and Jesse, both of you.
Sure.
My thoughts about what?
So what are some things that you see either in other reviews that you don't like or that you wish more people would do in their reviews? Is there some like thing that you wish everyone would gravitate
I hate
towards?
scores, but we've already kind of talked about that. I don't know. Like most reviewers that are just sort of uninteresting to me, it's because I don't know.
Well, like who are your favorites? Like old JonTron?
Yeah, JonTron is pretty great. AVGN is probably still my favorite.
Sure.
Because it's
he was great at creating a narrative out of the video just by where he was. Like Devu has often said that like the Nerd's Basement is the greatest location in all of in all of reviewers because
except maybe Jesse's basement.
That's what I said, Jesse's basement. But the Nerds is pretty second place.
Right. I mean, because with the Nerd, all he would do is show you like 2 pictures of where he is, and you immediately have this sense of I'm in that room, like I am playing games with him, because it's always, he'll show you the old console, he'll show you the old TV he's playing it on, he'll show you like where he is, and like you feel like you're in that room with him playing that game. And I think a lot of people like don't capture that because they try to do the same thing, but they have normal looking rooms. Like, people are just, I'm in my room.
Yeah.
Like, with the nerd, you felt like you were in this, like, place where time has not passed 1985 kind of thing, you know? Like, he's playing on the old system, on the old TV, and all
in
that.
an old room. And a lot of people, they kind of don't go all the way with that. They'll just set up a set of nerd stuff just barely in the frame of the camera.
I
and you
get
can
pretty
tell.
triggered every time I see like a millennial standing in front of like their amiibo collection and their Zelda poster. It's like, just fucking
It just
end my
really
life.
it's just not good cinematography when you can tell all their posters and figures begins and ends within the frame of the camera.
Gosh, yeah.
I love, because Jesse will do these things with his set where he'll reorganize all of his posters just for the sake of a video. Like, you know, like and I kind of copied this myself, but not nearly to the same extent, where he sort of like built each area of his room to be a different theme. So like there's a wrestling corner, there's like a pony corner, there's an Evangelion corner, and like if he's talking about those, like go watch the fuck Blu-ray video where it's like he carefully put all the Ava figures on the desk, or the Wonderful Waifus videos where it'll be like his waifu's corner, you know,
waifu
and
wall. Yeah. I'm very proud of it.
and like. And I like that because I like the idea that it's like, it's not just that I wanted my collection in the background, it's that there's a thematic relevance to my collection, you know? And there's a video that we'll say working on. I've been trying not to talk about this video because I'm scared it won't get done if I do.
Sure.
But I started it off with like a collection shot, but I had the camera vertical, like 'cause it's on my phone. So I did like a vertical filming of just one shelf that has like all my DVDs on it, because I'm literally talking about my DVDs, and then like I walk into the frame and then I pan the camera in slowly until it takes up the whole frame. So like it's not me standing in front of my collection, it's like the collection is the subject of the video, you know? And
Sure. That's of
I'm
course totally fine.
quite proud of the way I did that, but I don't know if anyone will see it and know exactly what I'm talking about anytime soon.
I do like that like live action stuff, but I also do like the some people who just don't go on camera at all, like Matthew Matosis.
Yeah.
There's something about the fact that he's just talking about the game, and there's like nothing really about him. Occasionally there's like a tiny glimpse into his emotions.
You know, I'm with you, because that reminds me of something I hate, which is arbitrary shots of you. Like, if you don't need to be in the video, like I'm working on a video now that I already recorded a big live action thing. So like, to justify that big ending thing, I need to start it with a live action thing, or it'll be weird. So it may, it's gonna work. But like, when people just start, they're like, "Hey guys, today we're talking about the new Zelda game that just came out. It's pretty good. Me and my friends have played it." And then they end it with like, "Okay, everybody, thanks for watching. Hope you'll stay and subscribe. I got more Zelda videos coming next week." Fuck Zelda, man. Fucking.
Yeah, I've remembered what I hate the most.
Oh, good.
Attempts at comedy when you're not very funny.
Yeah, please stop it.
I mean,
everyone.
I don't hate them for trying, but man, do I hate it when I hear them.
I hate them specifically
Just
for trying.
trying to force things that you're not good at in general
Right.
is annoying to me.
Yeah.
Like, people start doing reviews and they get of the mindset that like, okay, I need a live action segment and I need a joke here and I need this because everyone else does that. And then they'll get on camera and it's like, you can tell that they know they don't have the camera presence or the charisma yet.
It's that kind of copying the formula of someone
It's
without
kind
having
of-
the baseline skills.
I do accept that to get good at something, you should probably do it if you want to get good at it, but it's also annoying and you shouldn't, and fuck you and don't do it.
I think a lot of it's a sign of like a lack of confidence in your own skills, because like this is the fastest way to get me to close out of your anime review, and a lot of anime reviews in particular are like this, because like basically I think that a formula got sort of created in anime reviews like early on, and then everyone copied it, where they all wanted to have like a really really well produced intro, which is completely useless.
With
like,
a dubstep.
No, it's usually more like an artsy looking, like like very clean, like legitimately well produced.
Very
but
clean.
I don't want to see that. Like, I don't need 30 seconds of intro.
not
I
at
just
all,
want to
not
know
at
what the
all.
point of your fucking video is. And then they'll always start off, like, they'll start talking about the show, and then they'll say, "This is the number one line that'll make me close your video. Insert joke about this here." That phrase.
Yes,
Anyone
yes.
who says insert joke here, and I'm like,
That's
so in
lit.
other words, you don't have a joke, but you think you need a joke because
Yeah.
you're not confident in your own skills as a reviewer. You think that people will only watch a video if it has jokes, but you don't have jokes. So instead, you tried to make a joke out of the fact that you don't have jokes, which
That's
is not
something
funny.
you've encountered multiple times.
Oh my
I've
god,
seen
all
it.
the time.
I've seen it.
I've
Glad
seen
I
it
don't
all
watch
the
anime
time.
reviews that much. I don't seek them out.
Yeah, there was a time where someone on Twitter like posted every anime reviewer they follow just like randomly, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna look at all these guys, and then like I just
Oh,
kept
no.
all of them had the same, like, because a lot of them had literally taken like template elements that somebody made, and like
Yeah.
like everyone had the same DMCA opening screen thing where it's
Oh,
like
man.
this is fair use.
Man.
Like they had the exact same fair use screen on multiple
Create
channels.
your own
because-
create your own review software 2016. Just add opinions.
Yeah, and then everyone feels like they need to have jokes, but then all the jokes end up being about how they're not funny, and I'm like, stop, take that out.
This is-
I don't.
What
I
it
know
comes
you're not
down
funny.
To is that, like, I think this is good advice, not just for reviews, but for anything. Accentuate your positives and hide your negatives as much as you
course.
possibly can.
Yeah,
it-
I've been thinking
Play to
like
your strengths.
like in the recent scripts I've been writing, that I instinctively write a lot of jokes where it's like scream really loud, but I'm not very good at that. So I need to start cutting that down because I've seen stuff like Jesse's content where he screams. It's like, whoa, that's cool, that's really funny. I want to do that, but I've tried and I can't do it.
Can't scream.
Right.
So I
And
think I
that,
should
that
just try to
process.
stop.
Anytime
that-
you do anything that you're gonna, because it's great to take inspiration from other video makers or anything from life, but always ask yourself, how is this going? What is the me version of this going to sound like?
Right.
Always keep that.
Because
in
when it
mind.
comes to recording, I do a couple takes and I hate it, so I usually end up cutting it anyway.
That's
Sometimes they
hypocrite
get through.
Video editing process. Record something, hate the whole thing, trash it all.
Yeah.
This is why we don't get new hypocrite videos. By
I
the way,
know.
if anyone was wondering.
But we
Digi,
want them.
speaking of you complaining about insert joke here, I know you also have a beef with pronunciation of a word. Word? How do I pronounce the word? I don't know how to pronounce the word.
How ironic
Oh,
that
yeah.
Digi would complain about mispronouncing words.
No,
They're
no.
making a joke
It's
about
the
how
joke-
they can't
Oh.
pronounce it.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
when
yeah.
they go like,
Studio Ghibli? Studio Ghibli? I
Yeah.
don't fucking know. I'm
Exactly.
a gook. Hilarious. Great
It's like,
one.
and I know why they do it. It's to deflect people complaining about their pronunciation.
Because you've gotten a lot of that in some of your videos.
Yeah.
You get that every day. And
Yeah,
it's
I'm
like-
always getting
Those
complaints.
are fine. You can do that. Just don't dwell on it and just fucking motor past it. If it's just like I don't know. I did one in the Monster Musume that was pretty much that, but I legitimately did not know how to pronounce that word, and I think I just like I didn't fucking dwell on it. I just moved
And
along.
Digi, you eventually just dealt with it and decided to start pronouncing everything right because you hate those comments so much.
It's
That's
a
a good way to
mixture.
go.
Sometimes I pronounce it right. Sometimes I have been more and more like now I've been trying to say niche instead of niche because people complain every time I say niche.
Yeah, both
and
are fine.
That's just how I pronounce the word, like in my everyday life. But like, yeah, like with the Ava videos that I did, like I kept saying like Evangelion because that's how I say it, and people were complaining about it. So in one of the videos I go Shinseiki Evangelion, like,
and no one complained.
no one complained, but also
weebs.
nobody got that. That's why I was saying it that way, was to show
sure,
that I know
sure.
how it's really pronounced.
It
But,
is usually funnier to just mispronounce it deliberately.
That's true. That's true.
Hey, bonus round. Rule for commenters. If you think someone else has already wrote the comment, either look for the comment and thumb it up or leave, please.
we could
that's
do a
good
whole
advice.
other podcast about rules for comment.
Yeah, well, that's
Maybe we should.
that's a teaser for the rules for commenters, which will
Yeah.
be probably 7
Yeah.
hours of us just talking about how much we hate everyone.
Yeah, I think we could get every reviewer ever on board for that podcast.
That's true, that's
Everyone
true.
will have an opinion.
Just
Let's
be
get
yelling.
PewDiePie in here, guys.
Oh God. He's got his own forum for comments.
Yes,
He's
he does.
closed
Well, to be
comments
honest,
on his
these
videos.
days everyone's got their own subreddit.
Nino's probably got his contact.
We
Hey,
got our own subreddit.
we've got our own subreddit,
Go to our
guys. You can go
subreddit.
click on
It's
it. Link in the description. Go talk
Oh,
about
do
it.
we? I
Whatever.
didn't even know
Subreddit.
about that.
Yeah.
All right, here's one that's a little bit deeper that I want to talk about reviewer rules. So when we were discussing the idea of bringing up this podcast, and it's kind of fucked up that I'm going to do this when he wanted to be here and I didn't let him come on. But Jeff Thu of Mother's Basement was talking
You
about
didn't let him come in and he wanted to?
He was like, oh, because I said we were going to do reviewer rules, and he was like,
Yeah.
oh man, I want to be a part of that. But I think he was like more under the impression we'd be talking about like rules that we want to follow, as opposed to where I was thinking this is going to be us complaining about other reviewers' rules. But he was saying that like to him, it's important that you either like there's a distinction between recommending things and judging them based on what the creator's intent was, right? Like he was saying that like a review should be about figuring out how well they did the thing they set out to do. And I feel the total opposite of that. I think it's just not a review. I think that's a
an
critique.
interesting conversation to have, I think, about something.
Yeah, well, because I think a critique of something is where you look at what they tried to do and you judge them on that, right? And I think the most ideal way to critique something is if it's literally they're in the room with you, right? Like, I think I would want something critiqued before I release it. Like, if someone sends, let's say someone writes a video and they send it to me and they say, like, what do you think? Then that's when I'm going to try to figure out, like, all right, well, what are you trying to say? And here's how well I think you accomplished that. And then you can put it out, you know? And there's an extent to which you can do that in video form where if you know, especially if you know a lot about the creator, you know a lot about the background of the thing, then you can say, well, here's what they seem to be trying to do, and here's how well they did it. But you can never really know because you're not the one who made it. So it's always going to be and people treat those kind of reviews like those are the objective ones. People treat those like those are the best kind. It's like, oh, I'm you know, I'm judging how well they did their job, and it's like, yeah, but you don't really know what their job was. You don't really know. You know, like you can
fancy the interpretive ones. Like this is what that person really means in their life as like the most intellectual highbrow ones, which Aaron Signal, I guess, is doing, and then he critiqued himself for doing it. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? If you don't know what they're like, then don't. Like, just talk about what seems obvious and ignore anything that doesn't seem obvious.
And, like, I mean, there's an extent to which you can, like, talk about what you think a creator... Like, I did that whole Hideaki Anno video where...
Because you had some information to go on. You
had and constantly throughout it, I'm like, by the way, this is all speculation. I don't know Hideaki Anno, but here's some interesting things that you might think about him through what he's said. You know?
Or it'd be like taking, like, Suda51's games. Be like, oh, he's clearly, like, misogynistic. He fucking hates women. He's all about male empowerment. He likes to jack off all the time. Well, you don't fucking know the guy,
I made a pretty long video on Alexei Pajitnov, the guy who made Tetris, and I don't think I said anything about, like, he's the kind of guy who would make this kind of game. I just went down the list of all the games he made and tried to make him seem like a cool, funny guy because he is, so I just wanted to... And I just let him... let anyone watching it think about him the way they would think about a normal person. I didn't inject any of my own interpretation.
All right, well, here's where I'm going to take this a little bit farther, and maybe you guys will contest me on this, but okay. Here's... I think also that reviewing, like, especially with video games, I think that reviewing just the version that came out and that was packaged by the company is less relevant than reviewing the version that people will actually play with all the mods on it and stuff. Like,
I agree, I think.
Like, for instance, to give an example, like, Super Bunny Hop made a video about Fallout 4, right? And he was talking about, he was critiquing the game and everything and, like, going in depth about it. And then he says, like, you know, this game will probably get a bunch of mods that will make it way more interesting and better and playable, right? And, like, one of the things he complained about was the dialogue options and how they don't tell you the correct dialogue, right?
Yeah, they're a nightmare.
Well, then, like, a day later, a mod comes out that fixes that. So, anyone who like, to me, I think the most helpful review of Fallout 4 would be a review that says, hey, if you're going to play this game, download these mods. Here's my experience now that I've done that. because that's gonna be, I think, ultimately for instance, with a game like Skyrim, where like everyone plays it with mods, like no one just plays vanilla Skyrim on PC, like past the first couple months that it was out. And unless they're like someone who's a purist who only wants to play the pure version. But like, I feel like we need the reviewer who comes in and says, all right, here's the version that you guys are actually playing, and here's why that version's relevant to like culture,
Well, Super Bunny Hop is good about that in that
he's
not ignorant of that at all. He's very willing to talk about it. And I do actually like your suggestion a lot that he should do another review of it when like all the mods are out. I think that'd be a very useful exercise.
Yeah.
But really, I don't think that it's useless to do an initial release, but I think his goal for that video, and as he stated, was to talk about the game as it was released, and that's fine.
And I think it's fine to do that, but I just want to see more of both. And he is good about it. Like he did his Metal Gear Solid 5 review. Yeah. And Jesus Christ, some fucking loud ass motorcycle. He did his Metal Gear Solid 5 review, and then he came back like 2 weeks later and did a video just about achieving 100% in the game.
Right.
Because he kept going.
Which is
and
very interesting.
Right, and that's something that not everyone's going to do, but a lot of people, that's their version of Metal Gear Solid 5, and like he gave voice to those people. Because I think my biggest problem with video game reviews is that the format of them, and especially with professional ones, like if you work for a review website, then you're encouraged to play this game in like 2 days. Right?
Yeah, you'll probably give it a 10 out of 10 because it looks really good on the surface, and the gameplay is super tight. But they fucked up the entire story. It has no real ending. It fucks up everything about the lore.
It's not replayable.
Turns out it's not that good. Yeah.
If you're playing these games at like reviewer events where everything is set up to make you like the game, or if you're someone who has to play a game every week, then like. Your experience with games is not really what normal people's experience with games.
And so many people critique the reviewer events thing, but they don't realize that just being a reviewer, a professional IGN GameSpot reviewer, already colors your perspective quite a bit.
You know who those reviews are for? They're for other professional reviewers. That's who those are useful for.
I've praised before how I love that Yahtzee like admits all of this up front. Like in his videos, he'll be like, "Hey, I only have a week to play this game. I didn't get very far in it, and it's not my kind of game."
Yahtzee will give his Game of the Year awards based on which games actually got him to play it for more than a week after he was done reviewing it, which makes perfect sense. He says, my attention span has degraded to almost nothing as a result of being a reviewer. So anything that I keep wanting to play for more than a week must be the best.
And like I think that's great because I don't think a lot of people watch Yahtzee for his actual as a recommendation. I don't think many people watch him that way. People watch him because he's funny, and I don't think there's a lot of gamers who have the same taste as Yahtzee. Like he's so particular. He likes this certain type of narrative-driven anything that's like Half-Life. Like the closer it is to Half-Life, the more he likes it.
Half-Life 1 specifically, I think.
Yeah, both of them. He loves Half-Life.
Isn't his favorite game Silent Hill 2? That's his number
one,
Silent
Hill. Yeah, Silent Hill 2, Half-Life 1, or like Prince of Persia. Like those are
Prince of Persia 2.
No, the first one.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
No, 2 is not nearly as good as 1, but narratively.
Spider-Man 2, that's what it was.
That's like one of his joke favorite games ever.
What, Spider-Man 2?
No, he's like that's a game that he considers one of his favorites because of the
I remember that
he had playing it.
Well, whatever.
He had a top 5 list, but he even said it was a joke.
Spider-Man 2 is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
all right, enough about fucking Yahtzee's favorite games. The point is that he addresses the way that he plays the games, and I think more people should do that. And I think we need more reviews that address the way people actually interact with art, that aren't us trying to say well, here's what the creator intended and here's how well they did that, because that's totally irrelevant to any person watching your review. I think what your review should and I mean, I'm not saying that every review should be this. Do whatever you want, do whatever you're passionate about. But I want to see more that are about the cultural context of it and the way that people feel about it. if your review of Fallout 4 doesn't address the way that most people played it and the way that most people feel about it, then who is it for?
Because it may be for some, it may be for a niche. It may be for the way you experienced it, and there may be some people who really relate to that, or
that's
outsiders
fine.
who think it's interesting.
Like I think like the Jesse style, Anthony C style, that's my ideal, is a niche thing. It's not like everyone's looking for like epic stories in their reviews. But Lord knows I want more of it.
Yeah, I just want more reviews that, like, to me, the interesting thing about art is how it speaks to the human condition, how it speaks to you personally, how it affects you, and how you interact with it.
I guess the question is, do we count reviews as art? I mean, obviously we do, but do people give a shit?
I absolutely think, and I think this argument has always been happening for all time, and that we are on the right side of history.
Yeah,
but
of
like,
course.
because there's a classic, there's a huge write-up by Oscar Wilde called, which you know, this is from like 1890 or something, called like On Criticism as Art. Like
cool.
It's a huge fucking thing. It's presented as a conversation between two guys where basically one guy is just telling this other guy in extremely long-winded form that reviews are art, you know? And like he makes all the same points anyone else has made. So as far as I'm concerned, like this is a non-issue that's been around since the 1800s.
I gotta read that
know?
shit. That sounds awesome.
I couldn't make it through it because it's very flowery.
Yeah.
I obviously agree that a review can be art. But I don't think that reviewers should just consider themselves artists as a matter of fact.
Sure.
It's, I mean, for one reason or another, I don't feel as creatively fulfilled.
In general, I do
reviews.
have a severe lack of respect for criticism in general.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. If I like draw a picture, even if it sucks, I'm like, yeah. If I make a video, even if it's pretty good, I'm like, all right. I'm not quite as into it. It never
Like,
gives me quite the same.
In order for me to
high.
feel like a review has value beyond being a critique, is if it adds anything of its own that's creative or interesting beyond.
Sure.
the
Yeah,
critique
absolutely.
portion of it.
I absolutely regard all of my videos as high art, so...
Well, so do we all.
Well, because I like, to me, I enjoy analysis videos almost more than I enjoy media. You know, like, I spend most of my time watching YouTube analysis videos. So, like, to me, some of those are some of my favorite things. Some of those are more rewatchable, you know? And, like, if it was something like Sequelitis, you could make the case, like, yeah, well, it's also funny, and it's like, it's got obvious artistic elements. But then with something like a YMS video, like the After Earth one that Devu was talking about, like, that's one of my favorite videos because of what he brought to it. Like, even though it's just about the movie, it's just about the context, but the way it's presented, it's basically a documentary, and I think documentaries are art, you know? Like, it's about taking the work that exists and then making something out of it, and I think making art is generally that anyways. You're taking something that's in your head and you're making something out of it.
Well,
you're
you know what I
the
think?
world around you and you're making something out of it.
I think that's fucking copyright infringement, and everyone who does that needs to get shut the fuck down.
Yeah.
I have a before we move on from the list of things rules for reviews, I do have a big list that I jotted down
Oh, cool.
Oh, let's
of
hear it.
things that piss me off in reviews. And there's quite a few of them. I'll get through them.
I preemptively apologize.
I'll elaborate on the ones that need elaborating. And before anyone in the comments tries to catch me in some act of hypocrisy or contradiction, I will admit up front that in the past I have been guilty of some of these things and arguably continue to be guilty of some of these things, but there's still things that I fucking hate. So
People
anyone
who
in the
aren't hypocrites are boring anyway.
So anyone in the comments section trying to scream gotcha, you can blow me, you can all go right to hell.
Okay, now that we've primed them for the list, let's hear it.
So the first thing I wrote is jump cuts. I hate jump cuts. They should never exist for any reason.
you've done jump cuts. I've seen them in your videos.
Yes, you have, and I have a...
Come on.
Well, I have a contingency for my use of jump cuts because I only use them in Man-Child Incorporated, which is specifically designed to have no soul and to be a satire of soulless channels, even though I fail at that because I can't make videos with no soul. Because
Jesse,
I'm
why
just
didn't
too
you
good.
film Horseshoe Finale in one take? Why wasn't that a one-take video? Your editing was lazy. and I think you should step up your game.
No, what? No, shut up.
One take, Jesse.
How would he do all the
First of all,
costume changes?
motherfucker, I did film it all in one take. Every fucking shot in that video is a fucking 5-minute rant, at least, that I did in one fucking take. The only reason I use cuts at all is because I don't have the power to teleport around my fucking room.
Well,
All right,
you
stop
should invest
arguing
in
with Nate's
technology.
fake straw man and get back to your points.
Anyways, jump cuts are obnoxious. I don't like them. You're jumping around the room. It's fucking stupid. If you have a script, you should fucking memorize your script and put some goddamn effort into it. I don't need you cutting
you know what,
every
Jesse,
fucking sentence.
Alternatively, there's 2 easy solutions that get rid of jump cuts. You do one of them a lot, which is just you don't have to do jump cuts. Just cut to not you. You know, like cut if you're gonna have to do if you can't memorize the whole script.
If you can't
say the
memorize
first paragraph on camera, say the second paragraph on a microphone, say the third paragraph on camera. You can cut back and forth.
You can find
Or
creative
method
ways
number
to get
2,
around it without fucking just jumping to yourself from yourself.
Method number 2, be somewhere else. Like I've done this where I've recorded each paragraph like with a like instead of jump cutting, I'm just not in the same place anymore. Like it looks like I change backgrounds and now it's a new place.
So I guess to be specific, I'm not talking about cuts in general. I'm talking about specifically.
Well, I'm just saying that cuts are how you get around jump cuts.
Okay, if we take this long to talk about every point, we're going to be here all night.
I don't care how long we take. My points are gold, baby,
Yeah,
and they're
this can be as long as it needs to be, all right?
Okay,
I'm leading this discussion, goddammit.
That's true.
Okay, the next thing I wrote down is a big one for me, a big pet peeve: unscripted, stammering, stuttering bullshit.
Jesse, why don't you want people to be real? Why are you trying to put people in a box? Just let them be real on camera, Jesse, huh?
If you can't be articulate, you don't deserve to be real. if you're in front of a camera like fucking Alpha Omega Sin, and every other word out of your mouth, you can't even form a complete sentence.
I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, again, play to your strengths. Don't play to your weaknesses. Don't be a YouTuber just because you think being a YouTuber is cool. Do it because you actually are articulate and you could
Not
do
to throw
this,
shade on any other YouTubers in particular, but when I'm going down the list of things I hate, it's going to be kind of unavoidable. So fuck that guy.
No, I think it's fine to give an example. Then people can see what you're talking about.
Yeah, Alpha Omega Sin is really bad at that. His videos always lose me in the first minute. I can't get through them because he just can't put a sentence together.
Yep. It's bizarre and that's what people subscribe for, his inarticulate rambling. But whatever, let's move on.
The next thing is lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. That's my, yep.
Now, I'm a firm believer of anything on this list that I'm going to complain about, you can get away with it if you're self-aware about how stupid it is, which is something that I have utilized to great effect numerous times. I do stupid shit in my videos, but it's always with my tongue in my cheek, and that's where your tongue should be. You shouldn't... Yeah. Okay, I've explained that one enough.
Yeah.
The next
tongue
one.
punch in the brown eye.
The brown eye, not my ass cheek. What the fuck?
That's
all right,
quite
go
a feat.
Dismissiveness of other viewpoints or opinions.
Ding, ding.
You don't.
Oh man, yeah, that one will kill me.
You don't have to start every review with, by the way, this is subjective and it's just my opinion. I'm not saying you have to do that, but don't do the opposite either. Don't be like, if you like this, you're stupid. That's gay. You're gay if you do that.
That's pretty gay.
If you like saying, if you like this, you're stupid, then you're stupid.
Oh, and then when you're called out on it, don't own up to it. Don't just say, "Oh, I'm just having fun."
Oh yeah, that's the Departed Reflections thing that happened. Because this guy Departed Reflections made this. This is what I ranted about in the Bloodborne video. If you haven't watched it already, but he just kind of like took pot shots at K-On! And then was like, "Oh, but I'm sure people like it for a reason." And I was like, "Dude, what the fuck, man? Like, you're clearly insulting the people who like this show, and then trying to play it off like they're not."
He was taking pot shots at the people who like it for like just being weirdos.
That's true. He specifically insulted people who liked it, so that's not cool, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I think any like self-importance of that kind is really annoying in a review where it's like, I'm the arbiter of what taste is, and it's like, dude, you're just some guy. who has an opinion. Your opinion might be interesting, and a lot of people might feel the same way that you do, but you are not the arbiter of taste, you know? I mean, this is what that anime
exactly.
snob's entire career is him
Which
talking
again
about
goes,
how
which
he
again
has
goes back
the
to
only
lack
good
of
taste.
self-awareness. You should have,
Right.
as a critic, you should have the self-awareness to know that your word is not fucking
And
law
then
for all
act
people.
on that self-awareness by acting self-aware. Don't just be self-aware or claim you are.
No one's gonna know if you are self-aware and just
Right.
don't do anything.
Well, because
with it,
I
so-
think that's what Devu is saying, is like that Departed
Yeah.
Reflections guy was like kind of claiming that, like, hey, it's just a joke, bro. I'm not taking my videos that seriously, and it's
You
like,
need to modify
well, then
your content
don't
to where
make
that
the
self-awareness is
videos.
evidence.
Right.
All right, the next one is a big pet peeve of mine, and even bigger than the last one that was big, and that's the recap reviews. And I'm talking specifically about the That Guy with the Glasses Doug Walker formula, where you're
sure.
instead of actually like writing a think piece or an editorial or a fucking opinion about something, instead you go through the whole goddamn movie scene by scene for 25 fucking minutes, and just every scene you gotta make some glib comment about. Like the way that the
shit.
Nostalgia Critic does.
And any
Everyone
sort of
copies it,
content.
and it's a horrible fucking format.
You know,
People-
the only thing, no, you're totally right. And that was really bad when he would just play footage and do that. I like that he now does like all live action reenactments.
Yeah.
That in itself is kind of cool, but the formula is garbage. You shouldn't.
Yeah, like I
shoot
understand that
for
people want to copy him because he's popular and everybody
Yeah.
starts out copying somebody. But
But just remember, everyone's copying it because it's the easiest format.
yeah,
possible.
if you're gonna
That's
copy
true.
someone format, copy any other format.
I mean, it's
Because
an okay.
that's a terrible way to critique something.
Anything
It's an
that's
okay format for movies, because Jontron did that with Birdemic. He just went through it
But
and he
he's
made
so
jokes.
funny. You know?
I know,
like
that's the thing. He made up for it
Well,
with the
I
jokes.
think, and we kind of discussed this last night when we were just talking, but like, I think the only value for that is when it's something that no one's heard of. Then like going
right,
through the
right.
like
Exactly.
if you're
That's
talking
it.
about some completely forgotten piece of 90s garbage that like no one remembers, and then you like describe the whole thing like because that's kind of what YMS does, you know, is that he'll take a shitty movie that no
Yeah.
one watched and then he'll break it down
in
every
that
single
case,
scene.
by all means, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
first introduction to The Room, watching the Nostalgia Critic's video on it, and I
Yeah.
loved that video because I had no idea what The Room was, and was like, holy shit,
but
this is
I think,
amazing.
I think when you start applying that formula to like reviews of shit that people
Yeah, of like Star
actually
Wars
are watching,
that just came out.
then it's
what?
like we
Yeah.
all know what the movie was. Like you're not pulling the veil over our eyes with the way you're
If you know,
describing it.
if
you know,
Ben
we
were
know what
here,
it
he
is.
would be screaming about how much he hates us. He'd be railing against the heavens about this point. So just Ben, I'm here for you, brother.
Yeah, just like when you do that format, any actual content is like incidental. Any analytical point will just happen at some random
You know,
point in the video
that's the
based
thing,
on when it
man.
happens
Like
in the
at
plot.
the end, like Doug Walker always does. Like at the end, he'll be like, "Wait, I understand now.
Yeah.
The
Dun, dun,
it all
dun.
makes sense to me." And then he'll do this. Like he'll play the sad music and be like, "You know, at the end of the day, maybe Mad Max isn't about angry men and lesbian women. It's about being a family or like whatever, you know."
Yeah, some
It's
completely
like, fuck
obvious
off, dude.
conclusion.
And it doesn't
too.
even make it's either
yeah.
doesn't make sense, it like doesn't logically follow from what happens, or
Yep.
it's so obvious that there was no need to do any of this. So fuck off, Doug.
Yeah, bonus rule: don't make your points more dramatic and make it out to be more interesting than they are, unless
Oh
that's
yeah,
the joke.
you have to justify it. Like if you're gonna play the sappy music, you better have a good fucking reason,
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
interesting.
That's biggest
Or I
critique I think
hate-
we all have of
like-
Nerd Writer.
This is a good point. Yes, overly sappy shit when it is not justified is a huge trigger.
like
Fucking
the Plinkett reviews of Star Wars. He waited until 2.5 hours in to really lay down the big.
Yeah, and it was
this
epic.
is
The
a
payoff was
fundamental.
fucking. Oh yeah, it's the best. And I like to think I achieved something similar in my Gurren Lagann
Yes.
video with its 40 minutes, and then at the end it all ramps up to it's like, holy shit, guys, boom, you listen to this shit. Yeah, you know.
All right, Jesse,
Build up and
continue your
payoff.
list.
All right, the next one I needed some clarification for it because I'm a big doer of this. That's a stupid
Okay.
word. I'm alpha omega sin right now. I can't. Continuity, specifically high stakes continuity. Now I'll explain what I mean by this. I do continuity in all my videos. Every fucking thing I put out has some kind of connection in it because that's what I like and it's fun and it's cool. But the storylines or the stories that I'm telling are all very low stakes. They're just about me
Yeah,
being
yeah.
an idiot and a crazy person and living in my own madness here in a fucking basement. What I hate is when people, again, no self-awareness, they take it so seriously. Like, you'll watch,
Yeah,
like, a Linkara video or a Nostalgia Critic video, and some guy comes in with a gun, and he's like, we gotta save the world by reviewing this fucking movie from 20 years ago.
Holy shit,
it's the
dude.
only way to stop the evil overlord. And the evil overlord is just, like, him in a different hat.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Now, if
I
you
mean,
want
If
the-
it's
that sort of
self-aware,
thing-
it can be okay.
Those sort of things did start as a joke, but they've kind of become the norm a lot.
I
Yeah.
think,
Especially
it
in
started off
that guy
with
with
the
the glasses
AVGN.
people. They all
Yeah.
do that sort of...
It started with the AVGN like as a joke. Like there's no reason
Yeah.
this should
Yeah,
happen, and
like-
it does. Now we don't have to go too elaborate on stories because if you want a definitive, full, complete list of everything to not do in a review story, watch the Game Over Thinker episodes 43 through 100.
yeah.
That will
Like,
teach
the
you
Game
everything to not
Overthinker
do
is
ever.
the perfect example of don't, because like the thing is, I think that continuity can be great, but each of your videos should be watchable and comprehensible on its own. Like, if you're watching them all, unless it's like the end, like with the horseshoe finale, for instance, that Jesse Wood did, like
Yeah.
every video leading up to it made sense by itself, and then horseshoe finale was just the ending of the story.
Right.
Like, horseshoe finale might not make sense on its own, but it's also not about anything else other than the story. It's not an episode review that became a film. It is a film about the story,
Right,
and
right.
you know, it's made for the people who are following it. I
I'm,
think with like Game Overthinker, he'll put out a video that's called like "Why Mario's Cool," and then you start it, and there's like 10 minutes of him fighting 3 evil versions of himself in a CG background. You're like, what the fuck? What does this have to do with Mario? You know?
I'm all for continuity. I'm all for stories and skits, but guys, you are not saving the fucking Earth dimension from a goddamn ninja by reviewing
Yeah.
a fucking movie.
And
Oh,
you know,
while we're
Jesse,
on movie,
you're...
Bob, let's talk about something I've been guilty of is putting in some thing in your review that makes sense as part of your opinion to you, but like you don't explain why it's relevant to your review. And that's something that Movie Bob does a lot.
Oh,
of,
like
and
he
something
sticks in
I've done.
his social justice agenda all the time. And it's
Well,
like,
I don't know about
that was
that.
actually the very next thing on my list.
Ah, okay.
Intrusive politics. And that one needs
Yeah.
no explanation at all. Your fucking opinions on politics do not belong in a review.
Well,
Get
okay,
'em
hold
outta
on.
here.
Unless they do.
I think it does need clarification.
Well,
yeah,
that's
sometimes
why I
the-
clarified intrusive
Right.
politics.
Sometimes the politics are interesting, and that's the point. Like with Movie Bob, with his really that good videos, like
Yeah.
there's always a
He
point
just
in the
takes pot
video.
shots.
Well, there's always a point in the video where the politics are important. Where, like, with the Spider-Man video, he gets into this 9/11 part, and it's like that was relevant to the story of the movie. But then there's parts where he'll just be like, you know, and if you're a Republican, you're a fucking idiot. Moving
Oh,
on to the next
Jesus.
point, you know, and you're just like, what was that? Like,
that's a
why is
problem.
that there?
Yeah, like his Independence Day review was like, Independence Day came out in the 90s, and now it's, the 2010s. And there's lots of things that have happened since then. Bill Clinton has been great, George Bush has been terrible, and people have been racist against Obama. That's all the American history that's happened between them.
And also,
Now,
9/11.
that was the most violent rage quit I've ever had on a video, I think.
yeah, it was pretty bad.
All right,
Hey,
Jesse, next point.
Wait, I want to go back to your last point, just real quick about the stakes in videos, because I want to bring up one of my favorite examples of how to do it right ever, which is it was just Pinky
medium
Pride.
rare.
Yeah, it was in Pinky Pride, and now it also includes the Crusaders of the Lost Mark episodes of My Little Pony, where the stakes are like incredibly low. Right, you don't
Yeah.
need to do anything, but it's like the tension in the thing is built up in such a way that you really, really fucking care about it. Everyone should learn from that example. But okay, let's move on.
After intrusive politics, it's intrusive skits. Again,
Yes.
I'm all for skits. I think they have a place, obviously, but they shouldn't overtake the subject of the video. I think the best guy who does skits, besides me, of course, on YouTube is Anthony Fantano.
Yeah,
All of his
yeah.
skits
Those
are
are
like only a few sentences, and they're just there and they're funny and
But Anthony,
yeah.
this review should be 10 out of 10. And you
This
gave
bro
it
needs to
2
show
out
up
of
in
10.
his reviews.
Anthony, why you do this?
Yeah, if you-
Shut up, Cal. Anyways, back to the review.
Yeah,
know.
if
Hello,
you-
everyone.
If,
This
if
is-
you want to put
yeah.
skits in your videos, watch Anthony and
He's a
take
good
note from
example.
him.
And
Dude,
like,
just
man,
totally
they're
aside,
great.
I
They're
hope
like
that-
little, no, they're like little golden nuggets because you never know if there's gonna be one in a video. And then when you see one, it's like, yeah, actually, I kind of sometimes I'll get frustrated when there isn't enough like Cal, and I'll just be like, I'm not whatever, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
I just want to see Cal. But yeah.
And I've taken a page out of the book. Since I've started watching Anthony Fantano, I've tried to make my skits more to the point. Like if you watch like my 2012 shit or my, my old shit, there's a lot of meandering bullshit.
Sure.
Fantano highlights something really good that reviewers can be, which is unpredictable. Because I think that guy with the glasses type people, they think, well, now that I have a certain amount of narrative, I need to have exactly 3.5 minutes of skit at the beginning of every video.
Sure.
Whereas Anthony can be anything. The universe of the needle drop is like this unpredictable thing.
Yeah,
that's
like
breaking.
his April Fool's joke spawned this whole saga about how Cal is dead and in hell and made a contract with Satan, and he incorporated that into his fucking like pretty serious album reviews, and it was great. Everything
And
about
it matches
it ruled.
his editing style, where the editing spazzes out to cover up his mistakes.
Anthony, I made a deal with the daemon. I'm burning my Dr. Scholl's. Everything about that was fantastic. Gotta pat the guy on the back.
The next thing on the list is derivativeness. I'm not sure if derivativeness is a word, but
Derivative.
don't be derivative.
Whatever.
Nothing triggers me more than when I find a new guy on YouTube who is a blatant ripoff in every way of someone else.
Yo, how about that Demo D clone guy, right?
I was
That
about to
guy?
bring him up. I
this is
actually
kind of-
follow him on Twitter. He actually seems pretty okay. But yeah, we all left shitty comments on this guy's video one time because he was too much like Demo.
Well, it's like
And Demo is great. I didn't even hate that about it. It was just, it's like, okay.
Well, that's the thing. The thing about Departed Reflections is that, like, he doesn't necessarily make bad videos with the exception of that K-On! One, but, like, the worst thing about it is how he's cribbing Demo and not Demo. Because Demo has an amazing voice and a great microphone and a lot of charisma, and this guy has none of those things. He sounds like he's recording through, like, a muffled fucking, basement
Obviously-
microphone.
well,
or
let me
whatever.
explain. I have a pretty. I only watched the 30 seconds of the K-On! Video, but I have a very specific reason as to why his Demo impersonation bothers me. It's because he's not doing it for the same reasons as Demo. Demo does it, I don't know why for sure, but I infer Demo does it because it's an easy way for him to sound charismatic and fluent and read scripts well, because he probably tried reading everything like this and it didn't come out well. He probably tried reading
I actually
everything
don't
like
think
this.
I don't think Demo writes any of his scripts. I think it's all
he tried to present himself, and that was a way that came out naturally to him and
I
helped
think
him
the
make
reason
his
that
point.
Demo sounds that way is that, like, only, like, certain sentences are actually written, and he just kind of sits in front of a microphone and then, like, thinks of, because that's how I did when I did a Demo style video, the one that's Should You Watch Kaiba. There's no script for that. I sat in front of a microphone, and then, like, every couple of minutes, I'd just say something in, like, a really low voice, and, like, it matched his flow,
And
because it's
the
all off the top
flow
of his head.
of his videos fluctuates based on a point he wants to make. Like, let's just say there's a show where a character gets killed and it doesn't make any sense, so he might say it like this. So then she goes up into the cabin, and then she gets killed. He might, like, speed up all of a sudden, because that makes the point. Whereas the first 30 seconds of the Departed Reflections guy, he goes, "Hey guys, I've been really busy at work and school." He has, like, this big pause between work and school. There's no reason you could just say, "I've been busy." Demo, if for whatever reason he was going to announce that, would have said, "Hi guys, I've been busy with work and school."
All right, you just reminded me of the biggest pet peeve I have with all YouTube videos ever. It's when they start their video and they're like,
Hey
"Hi
guys,
guys, sorry
hey
I haven't made a
guys,
video in a
hey
guys."
while.
Oh, God,
I've
that's
been
the
really
worst
busy with
That's really
work
high on
and
my
school."
list.
Why don't you just
that
fucking
one-
kill yourself at that point?
It's
I
a
don't even
part
mind
of
if
Yeah.
it's just, even if they just say, "Hey guys," like, no, don't.
That's
Only
pretty
say
bad
hey
already.
or
That's
hello
pretty
for
bad.
that
It's
reason.
one part, and this, I'm going to extend this a little farther. I also hate it when people start off a review by talking about how they found out about the show or what their first impressions of
Unless
it were.
that story is really interesting.
Unless
like,
it's
guys,
really
I was
relevant,
doing anal on a
you know?
midget, and, like, he just blurted out, like, "Holy shit, you gotta
like-
watch fucking Gurren Lagann. It's the coolest."
Like, I do think, and I've made a whole video about why context matters, right?
Yeah.
With my Lucky Star video, where I was saying that, like, a big part of the appeal of this show for me is watching it with these people at this time, right? But you get so many people who start off their review like, when this show first started, I watched the first couple episodes, and I thought, I'm not really sure if this is gonna be good
God.
or not. Like, I'm not
How many
usually
times
into
have I
action
heard
shows,
this?
but now that I watched the whole show, I realized it actually exceeded my expectations by quite a bit, and I realized that maybe I should rethink my. God, shut up!
Yeah,
just
that's-
tell me how the show is. Jesus Christ!
That's real bad.
And if you want to see like all basically the same list Jesse's making that I would have is my Attack on Titan review,
yeah.
which was
April
an
Fool's Day
April
prank.
Fool's review, and it's just me doing all of the worst parts of every anime review, like
It is
everything I
genius.
hate.
I
in
have
those
listened
videos.
to that one back many times. It is perfect.
And it starts off with me just like, when I first saw Attack on Titan, I thought my first impressions of it were that at first it seemed like the first thing I thought is just going on and on like that. It's
All
so
right, Jesse, you got
obnoxious.
another one?
Well, okay. One more thing to say about derivativeness. Obviously, everyone is going to emulate the people they like, especially when they start out.
Right.
But a good way to prevent yourself from feeling derivative is instead of stealing from one guy, just steal from multiple guys.
Yes,
And
yep.
that's how you create a stew that eventually becomes you.
Yeah. And I mean, I am
That's
all
what all those
about
guys did.
copying
Draw from
people.
many sources.
I'm all
Right,
about
right.
copying people once. Like, I love doing, like, I'll find a new reviewer and I immediately want to do
Yeah.
something in their style, and
And-
I'll do like I did Your Anime Sucks, which
Because
is a
you're
send up
open about
with
the fact that you're
YMS.
copying them.
Right,
Yeah,
or-
you're
Homage.
probably the only guy I've seen, Digi, that actually does that, and it's interesting that you're
Right.
so interested in just like trying to do a copy of someone, pretty much exactly, but self-awaredly and intentionally.
Yeah. I like
It's cool.
it because it's a good way to add new things. Like, I see someone
yeah. You
who
learn
has a-
something every time you do
Right.
something
I
like
see
that.
someone with a different tool set from mine, and I'm like, I want to learn how to use those tools. So I try to make a video that's exactly like them, and then from then on, I know how to incorporate. Like for instance, the Asterisk War Sucks. Even though it has sucks in the title, is not supposed to be in the style of YMS. But there's moments in it that I use his techniques. Where, like, in Your Anime Sucks, that was, like, entirely supposed to be, this is YMS, but with anime, where I
Yeah.
went through everything in order, I made jokes
Thus
about
you
each
gained
scene,
his powers.
But then, like
Mega Man style, baby.
yeah,
Yeah.
and with Asterisk War, like, there's certain moments where I'll say, like, and then she gets hit by lightning. We are 3 minutes into the episode, and this is all
Yeah,
that has happened. And, like, that's a YMS
Wait,
gag,
someone
and
got
I'll
hit
put
by
that in
lightning?
my... I just, it's coming up at the top of my head. But, yeah, that's a YMS gag, and I got that from him, but, like, it's something that can be applied forever. And even... Like, he probably got that from JonTron from Daikatana Review, where he goes like, "This is the first 3 minutes of the game."
Yeah,
and,
it's
you
it's
know.
turtles all the way down. Everybody's
Right.
copying everybody pretty much forever.
Yeah. So I think you should look at other people and try to like figure out what they're doing right and copy that. Don't because it all comes down to like the surface details and that what was the Film Crit Hulk saying, the tangible details, where people look at it and they go, oh well, Demo uses a low voice and it sounds smooth and he stops his sentences randomly, so I'm gonna do that, and
Demo's
don't
got
realize
legit the
it's not random.
sexiest sounding videos on YouTube.
They
They're
are
better
pretty,
than Markiplier. I don't know, man. I would suck that dude's dick if he was here in front of me. I love you, Demo.
So multiple sources, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
That's right.
As the song goes, I'm the macho dandy son of Randy Savage, Captain Kirk, and Travis Touchdown.
Yes. Lot to
Yeah.
learn from that, folks.
The next one, I got my own lyrics wrong, but never mind.
Yeah, macho dandy bastard son of Captain
Oh,
Kirk,
yeah.
Travis.
The next one is a big do as I say, not as I do.
Sure.
Alcohol. I'm sick of it. It's the laziest comedy crutch in the history of reviews. The whole,
true.
oh, I can't even get through this without drinking. Gotta knock back some of that fucking Jim Beam. It's so fucking played out and
Yeah.
redundant at this point. If you are drinking alcohol in a video as a joke, fuck you, go away and die. You're not the nerd, you never will be, and you damn sure ain't drowning in horseshoes, so don't even fucking bother. Get out of here.
I think there's a few ways to, like, drinking is a very careful line, and I think if you're good enough to make it work, then you don't need us to tell you.
But that's true of pretty
But,
much
like,
everything. So
right.
yeah.
But like I love doing, like, because I think you should do drinking if it's part of your
yeah, like,
character
if
is that
you-
you are an alcoholic.
If you
know?
happen
Sure.
to be a guy who drinks, fine, whatever. You can. I'm not going to tell a grown adult not to drink. But when it's used as like a crutch for like the whole,
I think
You
it's
know,
a
the first time I
problem.
watched Drowning in Horseshoes was the first time I had been like impressed by like somebody just drinking alcohol, because like I'd seen the nerd do it.
I mean,
and
he does
just
it through
usually,
that horse head too, which is a
Yeah.
feat all of
Yeah,
its own.
the nerd.
like, AVGN just takes a sip and that's just he cuts there.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
nerd
But like
invented.
One thing where he has a
Jesse
whole thing
would
of
like
vodka or whatever that
open
stuff is. I don't
open
know
the
what it is.
beer through the horse head, drink the entire thing, and then throw it on the ground, and then there's a sound
And
of
the
glass shattering.
smashing it too is like, man, selling the joke is great. You gotta do
It just
something
it just
like
goes
I've
to
had-
that
I've
level.
had a lot
If
of
people
glasses in
do
my
that,
throat.
then I'd be more
that. Oh my
interested.
god, is that the origin of the fuck glass? All those broken beer
Yes.
bottles over
all
the years?
all the broken.
Oh my God, the continuity.
All the shattering beer bottle sounds that you hear in my videos are legitimate. I go.
Yeah, I
I
knew
throw.
they
I've
were.
always wondered that.
Awesome.
But yeah, like I think if you can make alcohol a stunt, it can work, which Jesse
Yeah.
always does. It's always
course.
like something impressive.
It was invented by the nerd. It was perfected by Drowning in Horseshoes, and it was taken to a new galaxy by Colt Corona. So no one
I
else
love,
should ever
and
do
if you can make it a good joke, Nate did a great one at the beginning of Gurren Lagann Part 1, where he opens 3 beers and does the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and then drinks all 3 at once. That
Yeah.
was funny,
Yeah.
you know. But if it's just like, I can't take this, I need to drink. Like for me, if I was gonna do, because if I started
you know
doing
what?
live
Not
action
even,
segments,
not even alcohol. Just specifically that joke is the problem.
Yeah.
I can't take this. I
Yeah.
gotta drink.
like if
You know,
Fuck you.
if I started doing live action videos, I would drink in all of them because I love having myself with a wine glass because I've kind of become a wino for real. But like I
How you
love.
doing with that boxed wine? Have you polished that off yet?
Oh, I did last night while we were having our
Oh,
long ass
shit.
conversation. I polished off another
Congratulations.
box. Oh, this is my 3rd box. So it's
That's
not like
the-
it's been one this whole time. But
Oh, okay.
anyway,
I like
yeah,
how
like-
I like how I complain about this as I'm drinking whiskey.
yeah, like
At-
well, I
Well, you're not
think,
making a big
at
fucking
4 in the
production of it.
afternoon.
I think
You're
it's
not
I
trying
think
to
it's
impress
great
anybody.
if the idea is like I'm like it's like 2 different ways. Some people are like, I have to drink because of this movie, whereas
Right,
for
that's
me,
the
I
shit.
think it's more I have to this movie because I drink. You know, and I think that's a better way to do it.
The
Like
second-
I'm
yeah,
an
that was
alcoholic
funny.
who's lost my mind and is trapped in my room watching anime.
You see,
That's
I have to
funny.
do
You
this
see, that's a
movie.
new spin on the joke, and that's way funnier.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
I have
That's
to
what I.
movie
That's what I
because
want my
drink.
persona to be. Is I mean, if you look at all my iconography on my
Yeah.
channel and everything, there's
Okay.
always alcohol involved.
So forget this rule. Alcohol is not the problem. Drink if you want. Just
Right.
write better jokes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, what's next?
The next one is obnoxious, overly long intros. We already did that. We
Yeah,
already
we
went through
covered
that one.
Yeah.
Don't make a fucking long, boring intro to every video. But there's an addendum to that, specifically heavy metal intros.
Yeah.
I love heavy
yeah.
Unless
metal.
you're Maddox and you're gonna play it through the whole video.
Everyone,
Like,
It's
I-
yeah, everyone loves heavy metal. It's great, and we all love it. But something about putting heavy metal in the intro, like as a part of your gimmick, just seems so desperate to me.
I have never really watched much of Spoonie's content. I know a lot of you guys are fans, but I went back and watched the beginning of some of his Final Fantasy VIII ones. He's got this really shitty animation and this like horrible metal intro that goes on for like a minute, and it was like a nightmare. I could barely sit through it. But like that at the time, I'm sure it was like awesome. This was like, holy shit, he's got an animated intro. This is fucking insane. But like now, with the standards we have today, it was not
Is
good.
it
every
metal?
metal, every metal
Thing?
intro is
I don't think
always.
he has a metal intro.
Well, it was rock and roll at the very least.
Well,
Sounded
every
fine.
I
metal
like- I
intro
like that
is
intro.
always like just a chugging, like basic ass riff. Like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
specifically
the only
what
guy
I'm,
who
what I'm basing this off of is
Yeah.
one of the worst ones that I ever saw was back in the That Guy with the Glasses forum days, and there was this guy called the Hardcore Kid, and
Oh.
his
Sounds amazing.
he had this long intro, like the entire song "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue.
Okay.
And the intro had like explosions and like he was like slow motion.
Dude, what a badass.
Like him putting on the leather jacket, putting on the sunglasses.
yeah.
That's another one. Putting on
Did he
the
evolve
clothes
into
and the
Razor
intro.
Fist later on?
He might have.
All right.
He might have lost
All right.
some weight and became Razor Fist.
I'm just gonna go ahead and set down a fucking rule when it comes to intro songs.
Okay.
All right. If it's more than 5 seconds long, then here's the rule: it has to be an original song
Yeah.
made by a professional musician.
Yeah.
Not an original song
That's a
that
good
you
one.
made or that some guy made. All right, here's the best intros that are more than 5 seconds
It's
long.
JonTron,
JonTron's intro's incredible because it's iconic, and the intro is important to the videos because he uses different versions of the opening theme throughout the video,
which is
to create
great.
emotional moments. You know,
Yeah,
you'll hear
yeah.
the sad version when something sad's happening. It's amazing, right?
Dude, that's why I need to make a fucking intro song stat so I can get
Yeah.
that
You know
emotional
what?
payoff
Actually,
later.
number
That's top
two.
of the list.
Actually,
All right, number two guy.
We all need intros. We should.
Yeah.
This is not a problem. I
Number
take
2
it
guy,
off.
the Cinemasochist. He got Perturbator, the guy who does the music for the fucking what's it called, Hotline Miami games.
Yeah.
Just was a fan of him and made him an intro.
Yeah.
And it's got, I mean, his videos are about
Yeah,
sleazy 80s action movies, and a guy whose entire career is making games out of sleazy 80s action movies style
Yeah.
made him, a soundtrack.
Okay, you know
That's
what? The
cool.
more I think about this rule, the more I fuck it. This is a bad
And,
rule.
and
Don't
number
listen
3
to
guy,
it. Bec-
there's only one guy who's done the metal intro justifiably, and that's Good Bad Flicks, because the band Psycho Stick made him an intro, and they actually know how to play that style. And
And
make
here's
it
a
sound
here's a
cool,
rule
you
for
know?
intros
It's
that I
awesome.
have, especially if your song is loud and energetic, is how it then fades out like in the middle of a verse.
Yeah.
Well, that's
at the end.
unacceptable usually.
That just completely throws me
Yeah.
off. That's
You
something that
have
even
to-
my 13-year-old
The
self
song
was
should be
perceptive
made
enough to
for
think.
the song should be an intro song. It should not be a song
Yeah.
that was written for any other purpose. It
That
should
just
just
cuts
be
out
an
at some
actual
point.
intro song that's 20 seconds, like JonTron's song is an intro song. You know.
Yeah,
None of
yeah.
these rules should be taken as set in stone no matter what. There's always
Of
exceptions to
course.
all of them. The Cinemasochist has always had great intros. The Angry Video Game Nerd is so iconic and so perfect. It's the greatest
Oh
intro
yeah,
of all
great
time.
intro.
Even though he hates it.
Take you back to the band.
He hates it.
He hates
which
it.
is sad.
That is sad.
course
Well, I
he
don't know if he
does.
hates it, but he's gotten very sick of it, which is
Well,
why he
of course
stopped
he
using
does.
it
He's
for
doing
like
it
a
for
year
10
or
Of
two.
course,
fucking
he's gotten
years or
sick of
whatever.
it, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, if you think that if you disagree with any of our rules, prove us wrong, or just
No,
fuck
you don't.
us,
You don't have. You
care
don't.
about
You
us.
don't have to
You
prove
know-
us wrong because they're not set in stone in
Yeah.
any way. They're
You-
just
you-
things
you don't-
that
you-
they're just pet
go
peeves.
against the grain.
All right,
Just
Jesse,
don't-
you got any
just
more?
Don't care what we
Yeah,
think.
let's move on.
I got tons more.
Oh my god, how we might have to
How
split this
many
into
more,
two different
really?
podcasts, because I also wanted to talk about reviews, like rules that reviewers
Lord.
have about
Well,
shows.
Yeah,
Just
and the
how
longer we
many
go,
more
the
do you
more we
have?
run the risk of technical failures. So we should probably split
We're
this up.
about halfway through my list.
Is anybody at risk of technical failure right now?
I'm not.
Who knows?
really
Anyone
worried
might
about it.
lose power. Their computer might lock up. You never know.
I'm not worried about that. Jesse,
The
continue
economy
with
may
your,
collapse.
All right.
Yeah.
The next thing on the list is guys who only do negative reviews and or shows based around just cynicism in general.
That's why the mysterious Mr. Enter is the greatest creator on YouTube. Actually, I don't even know if I've actually
Well,
never
to
watched
be-
any of his videos.
To be fair, he does do videos on
Like-
good things.
Does he?
as
Well,
as
good for
bad.
him. Good for him.
If the basis of your show is I'm Mr. Angry Hate Guy, I hate everything and I rant.
We're just talking about
does that
I hate
everything guy? Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've actually haven't watched any of his videos that weren't about the Daddy Derek shit.
Well, you know,
so
it's
I don't know if he's
interesting
like that.
because-
Oh yeah. Speaking of, I hate everything. Don't have an rule. Don't have an avatar that looks completely hideous and no one
Don't
wants to
have
ever
a
look at.
disgusting, repulsive avatar. That's a good rule. Yeah, don't do that.
well,
Even though he's doing well
it-
despite
yeah,
it, but
yeah.
whatever.
It's ironic. The best I hate everything video is the one video that's I love everything and it's for Star Wars where he's actually being
Oh, yeah?
positive. Maybe that's a personal thing. I don't know. I just much
Maybe-
prefer positive.
Maybe
videos
it's
to
a
negative
prodigal
ones.
son sort of thing where like you get used to him hating everything and then he finally does a positive and it's like, oh yes.
Yeah, I just
I
think that I just think
definitely-
that negativity as a gimmick is played out.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think you should. I think what it does is, like, if you're someone like the Angry Video Game Nerd, it worked for him because, like, it was all these weird games that no one's heard of, and it wasn't really him
Yeah.
reviewing. Like, there was no, like, sense that you were watching his videos because you needed to hear his opinion on this game. It was about the game, you know. And I
For the
think
most
guys
part,
like,
his anger was deserved. Like it was an actual frustrating experience.
Right, but I think guys like JonTron and stuff, like, they do well with that because, like, just JonTron mostly plays like shitty games or watches shitty movies, but
Yeah.
it works out because of the fact that it's about the thing. It's not about the review. It's not about his opinion of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're an opinion reviewer like I Hate Everything, then it's like, we don't have any metric for what you actually value. You know, like, if you only review bad things, like, what I love about YMS, about Your Movie Sucks, is that he makes so many quickies where, like, he reviews every movie. So, like, if you were just watching the Your Movie Sucks reviews, those are funny and all, but like they really gain context when you see what movies he likes, when you see like what he gives the 10 out of 10 to, and he makes those top 10 movies of 2014. Like those are the necessary antithesis to the negative reviews to make you appreciate what he values. Otherwise, those reviews would mean nothing. He would say like, this movie's shit, and you'd be like, well, I don't know what you like, so I don't, you know. And now that I do know what you like, then I can take it all with a grain of salt.
A good review for negative reviews is keep in mind, just because you dislike something doesn't necessarily it makes you mad. Don't pretend to be mad in your video unless you actually are mad as a result of the work. There are plenty of things that can be like a 1 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10 that you're just bored of. Don't go, oh, it's terrible. Just be like, I hate it.
I think it's pretty clear that the only times that I've made negative reviews is when there's like a strong emotion there. When it's like, this show made me really mad and I have to talk about it.
In your entire asterisk, and even then, try to downplay your anger unless you're funny and you're charismatic, like James Rolfe.
Well, I mean, you can do whatever. Be negative about shit, but you know, just don't do it. If you're gonna do it all the time, you gotta make it
valleys,
work.
You know, like if you're gonna be mad, if you're mad through the whole video, then it loses impact. You know?
In your whole Asterisk
like,
War series, you scream just one time.
Yeah,
just
it's
once.
it's like when I reach the end of my rope is when I'll like, because most of the time I try to be like sarcastic, snide, like, oh, this is like this, but then there's those moments where it's like, well, this is actually a real problem, so now we have to get serious, you know, like, or this is actually real frustration, so now we have to be frustrated. Like, understand the emotions of your script. Don't flatline the emotion, because then it's just going to get tiring.
And to be fair, Doug Walker does a pretty decent job with that. He usually creates like a narrative out of his escalating anger or conflicting emotions. It's just that everyone imitates him, does it wrong, which is another rule. Try to outdo your idols. Try to do better than them. You won't succeed.
Yeah,
you won't succeed. But if you try to think of as your ultimate pie-in-the-sky dream is to be almost as good as them, you're always going to be shit. So just make it your goal to be better than your idols.
That's fair. That's good advice. All right, Jesse, next one.
Next one, adherence to formula.
Sure, yeah. We were kind of talking about that.
If you're doing reviews, every couple of reviews, change it up. Don't just be doing the same shit for fucking 5 years.
Yeah.
All my videos are different. That's why I'm the greatest of all time.
Unless your formula is so loose that it, like...
Well,
like
in that case, you're changing it up intrinsically anyways.
Like, with someone like YMS, all the videos are, like, you know, it's always 20-minute chunks and we're going through the movie, but, like, he'll work the context in different ways, you know? It's never like, here's the part where I talk about the history, and here's the part where I talk about this. It's like, it's all... Each video is its own unique animal.
And, you know, if you have, like, a formula that you stick to real hard, then... Okay, then people are gonna watch you for that. But if you ever change things, you run the risk of them like not giving a shit about you, and then just being like, "Well, fuck this. This isn't what I signed up for. I'm out." You know, you're not getting them attached to you as much as your content.
Everybody, go watch my Super Mario Brothers 3 review, my Sim City review, and my Hello Kitty review. 3 totally different kinds of videos. And they're all amazing.
All great. All great.
Well, I just want to make it clear that even Mother's Basement does, like, even though he'll do like what's in an OP, and every video is just about an anime opening and it's 10 minutes long, but they're all very different, where he'll cover it. Like, he did the Dragon Ball Z opening, and like most of them will be like, sometimes he'll say like welcome to the NHK. It's like an analysis of like every image and what it means and how it's relevant to the story. But then he did like DBZ, and it's about the cultural context. It's about what this show did to anime openings. Or the One Punch Man one, which is like literally a game theory video for the One Punch Man OP, where he's like calculating how strong the punch is and stuff. Like, those are all
pretty cool
changes to the formula, where it's not every single video is the same thing, even though they are all about OPs and they're all about the same length, you know. But
obviously formulas will meet you with success depending on what kind. So there are certain types of things where you can always be the same. You know, the needle drop always has very similar elements to every video. Zero punctuation always has similar elements to every video.
These are not rules.
They're carefully selected elements.
These are not rules that will make you all. These are not rules that will make people successful video creators.
No,
these are
follow
rules.
any of these
You know
rules
what? You know what this reminds me of? There's this book that me and Ben read called "How Not to Write a Novel," and no one in the world agrees on how to write a good book, but there are tons of things people agree on to never ever do if you want your book to sell book one. And like, this is similar.
I think the thing is, like, I think when formula becomes dangerous is when it's specific. Like, if you do your videos where you talk about the story and then talk about the characters and then talk about this, and you try to apply that to everything, you've failed. And I hate My Anime List reviews because they encourage that. Like, the format of the website is that you score each element, and then your overall score is meant to be like the summation of those. And I've written a lot of reviews in this style back in the day, so I know exactly where its failings are, which is that, again, you can't apply it to every show. You can sometimes you can really talk about each individual thing, and they're all pretty separate. But like, if talking about the aesthetics of the show informs talking about the characters of the show, then separating them into different sections won't make any sense. You know, if part of my review of the visuals is that this character looks this way and that informs their personality in these ways, then like I've already broken formula and fuck it, you know. So yeah, Jesse, more points.
The next point is posturing, and the worst offender of this one, I have to say, is Razor Fist.
Yeah.
The main thing that drives me crazy about his videos is that he's never willing to be the punchline. He never laughs at himself. He always has to be the cool guy making fun.
For a guy that serious, that's going to cause problems.
Yeah, I mean, laugh at yourself. Again, it goes back to like self-awareness. Most of my jokes, most of my videos are centered around me being the punchline. You know, I'm making light of the fact that I'm a big dumb idiot loser, and that to me is more funny than trying to seem like I'm the best guy ever.
Yeah.
Not throwing shade at Nate.
Yeah.
But
Nate's videos do the same thing.
It comes off as insecure to me to try to posture at like you're the best guy.
Nate's videos always the idea of it is that it's all fake posturing. That like at some point he pulls back the curtain and it's actually some nerd, you know, where like the idea of the Girl in the Gone video is like, I used to be this weak piece of shit, and then I watched the show and it made me the best guy ever, you know, and like that's sort of the joke.
Yeah, I connect way easier with people who show that they can laugh at themselves.
Nate, are you still there? You didn't have any reaction to us talking about you?
He's dead. I killed him.
Oh no.
Oh no.
You didn't have enough self-awareness.
You think he went to the bathroom? All right, Jesse. Next point.
Over-reliance on memes. Memes are a tool. They can be hilarious. Use them sparingly.
Alright, do you mean memes as in memes from other things, or
like just, you know, memes?
Or is it okay to keep your own meme, like create your own meme?
Oh man, creating your own memes is awesome. Everyone should.
Because I love those. Those are cool.
If you watched all the Nostalgia Critic, you would understand how those can be abused.
Okay, well never mind. Don't do that either. Don't do anything.
Yeah,
Everything
don't use
is
too
wrong.
many memes or too many references.
Yeah.
A well-placed reference can be the funniest
references.
fucking joke ever, but if your script has I think they're like a very special silver bullet. Like if you can put just the right reference at the right moment, it can blow everything wide open.
And there's something that may
a lot
seem
of
so
things
obvious
that people.
I want you to
Sorry,
talk,
you
Given.
go.
You need, whenever you want to talk, you should.
Yeah.
Okay. What was I saying? Something about references. Yeah, a lot of the time I see people making references as jokes in and of themselves.
Yeah.
Just like I'm drawing attention to the fact that I know about this thing, and that's
The biggest one that comes to mind is I Love Composite.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, you know.
like it's just it's meaningless, but it does.
Oh man,
it does get the views. It gets the kids all
It
happy.
does.
They're
They love it
like,
like
oh,
they
you
love
know
it.
my
Yeah.
thing.
Of all of these rules that we've been saying, like where Jesse was saying, these won't necessarily make you a famous YouTuber; they'll make you a good one.
This
This
one
is
will.
the number one rule to break if you just want free hits.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
references to everything. Load your video with memes and all the fucking.
Put Sans and Papyrus in the thumbnail of every fucking
Yeah.
video,
Yep.
regardless of whether you're talking about
Just
anything.
anything
And
that's
Shrek for good measure.
anything that's
listen.
popular
Yeah.
or noteworthy.
Sans,
or a
Papyrus,
meme,
and Shrek.
throw it in
Everything.
there, and then
And some
because
Illuminati triangles in there. That'll
the
get you
reason
what
it
you
works is because for some reason people don't understand that the internet is a place where everything you like 1,000 other people like as well. For some
Yeah.
reason everyone thinks that if you make a reference to something and they get that reference, it's like a special connection. Like, oh my
Right.
god, you referenced a meme I've heard of. And it's like, yeah, everyone's heard of
Well,
it.
that's
dude.
why
It's
I
not special.
that's why I like to think, and I take pride in the fact that many of my references are so obscure
Yeah,
that
that no
only
That's
3
true.
people will get them.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
always
thing
structure them
about
in a
good
way to-
references is like a good reference can make sense even if you have no idea what it means
Yeah,
or what
makes
it's
sense in
referencing.
context.
It just
reference
is a thing that you
it-
said, and
yeah.
it's cool.
It's
Now,
gotta
there's
have
one.
substance.
There's one other rule about doing references that when I explain it, it's going to seem so obvious. But the nostalgia critic himself continues to break it. At least a couple years ago, back when I was still watching him. In general, don't. This is what a lot of nostalgia critic does. He will show a clip and be like, "Wow, that's just like such and such." Then he will show the clip again and then show such and such. That's you're not even doing the structure of referencing something correctly if you explain it first.
Yeah.
So just throwing that out there. Don't do that
And
either.
While we're on the subject of references, I'm gonna. This is just a flash forward to what the future of this conversation will be.
Oh
but,
God, I'm in a nightmare. It's still
'cause
going.
One of the rules that a lot of people apply towards the things that they review is that reference comedy is somehow the lowest form of comedy.
Did
and-
anyone else get cut
you
off?
caught
on
out.
that?
You said,
I
"Is that
completely-
red?"
completely cut out?
Eddie,
What? Am I here?
Repeat
You're here
that
now.
if you
we
would
just missed your
please.
sentence.
Okay, what I was gonna say is for some reason people think that reference comedy is the lowest form of comedy,
Yeah.
and they never explain why. It's just something people seem to think, right? And I think that like Lucky Star proves that that's not true. And there's a great scene where it's an Initial D reference where the character suddenly the animation style becomes Initial D and the characters start racing down the road. If you have no idea what it's referencing, it's still hilarious because for some reason
you gotta
the
respect
animation
how
style
hard
completely
they went
changes.
In. Yeah, they went in on that joke so hard that you're gonna appreciate it no
Right.
matter what. It's not like they just cut to an Initial D clip and was like, "Isn't it funny? We're doing something sort of similar to that right now."
Right, like if you've
no.
never seen Initial D, you'll still be like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah,
The
it's
animation
great.
style's totally different, the music's totally different. This is hilarious, you know. But if you have seen Initial D, then you're like, "Oh my god, it's Initial D!"
multi-track
Right?
drifting, holy shit!
Yeah,
yeah.
And
rules.
so, like, I think references can not only can they work on multiple levels, but also for the people who do get the reference, it can be fucking hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
people are always like, "Oh, reference is the lowest form of comedy because it relies on another work and like not everyone gets it." And it's like, yeah, but if you do get it and it makes, guess what? Here's what's good comedy. If it makes you laugh, it's good comedy.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
if it doesn't, like,
A
people
reference
want
has the ability to make people laugh for like totally different reasons. So
Right.
if you do it well, that's pretty cool.
The
That's
worst
a double layer.
thing, the worst thing about every review of comedy is for some reason everyone thinks that comedy has all these really strict rules. And every time someone does a comedy review, they're like, "Comedy is the hardest thing to get right. And
We
you
all
really
saw
have
that
to make
King
it
of the
like
Hill
this."
episode where Bobby goes to school to try to learn how to do comedy by the book, and it doesn't work out, folks. Nobody
right.
laughs. He has to pull
Everyone
out the fart
thinks-
jokes, you know?
Every fucking video where someone reviews a comedy, they always have to have like this long like speech about how comedy is so different from drama and you have to judge it on a different scale and this is the right kind of humor, this is the wrong. If it makes you laugh, it's funny and it's good comedy. There's a million ways that you can accomplish that, but trying to be like, "Oh, well, if this kind of comedy is never funny." Except it is all the time. References are often funny. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
the easiest one to fuck up, but like they're very often hilarious, you know.
Family Guy's references are funny. They animate ridiculous shit, you
Yeah,
know?
fun.
I like it.
Hardest I've laughed so far this year was Jesse's in a like analysis video or review. Jesse did
Yeah.
the video about the Christmas specials, and he has this like long lead up. I won't even spoil the line, but it's too, you know, you'll know it if you see it.
What was
And-
this involving? I don't remember the...
All right, fine. He was telling this whole story about Helga in the Christmas special of Hey Arnold, and the whole thing is she's trying to get these shoes, and then like she has this whole moral conundrum about whether she should give the shoes to this other person or keep them for herself, and like Jesse frames this whole thing, and then he says she is truly drowning in footwear, and
Yeah,
like
that was pretty great.
the way it all led up to it was so
I was-
perfect.
Yeah, I was very
you know?
proud of that one. It was a
And-
well-constructed bit in a well-constructed video.
And it's a reference, and if people haven't been around on your channel long enough to know what drowning in footwear is, then they won't get it. But like,
And
it's
that
not
title itself is a
intrusive,
reference.
you know. It's just something
Yeah.
that you'll get more if you know the reference, and it's
And
fucking
even
hilarious.
and even if you don't get the reference, I added in that few seconds of like wind howling and
Right.
like the Aaron Hansen, like that's not fucking funny. So
Yeah.
even if you don't get it, then that's also part of the joke.
right.
That's how that's what it means to be a comedy genius, people. You gotta bang on all cylinders. Okay.
All
so
right, next rule.
Somebody mentioned Kim Possible, which made me add a new one right on the fly
good.
here. which is having editors. Edit your own shit, goddammit. Have some pride in your fucking art and edit your goddamn own videos. You can there's if
Except for me.
Well, fuck.
That's the thing, though. Kim, it's like people when we talk about I Love Kim Possible a lot, you can't judge like her content as if it's like her just making it. You can't say like, wow, Kim makes great videos. Well, you have to say like her videos on her channel are clearly the work of a lot of people putting in time to make a video.
Here's what it comes down to for me. Like, I hate editing more than anything in the goddamn world.
Yeah.
But the reason I do it is because I have so much pride and vision in my work that I can't do it. I can't trust it to anyone. There's been times I said, Devu, edit a video for me. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, no, wait, never mind. I'm doing it myself. Fuck it. Yeah. And then the video will never come out because I can't even finish it.
It's just a matter of, I don't think the rule should be don't have editors. It should be have editors who you're working closely with and who are communicating the same thing you are, you know?
It's just about what you try to do. I don't think I could possibly ever make a video and have someone else edit it and it be what I wanted.
There are so many nuances and gags that come from the editing process that you think
that's
of
what it's
during
all
that.
about.
But at the same time, sometimes you're... So to me, it's not a matter of, like, I'm handing off my thing to someone else and they're doing something. It's more like, I mean, if you're a musician and you're in a band and you don't play all the instruments, then that means that every song is the collaborative effort of you and 3 other people.
Sure, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And, like, with my videos, because I hate editing, and I will just not make the video as good as it should be because I don't want to edit it. I just won't do it. Like, if there's something that I know that if I spent 40 hours on it, it could be fine, but, like, there's no way I'm going to spend 40 hours on it, then, I won't write my videos in a way that requires that. But I know that the Devu can take, like, he finds the jokes that I don't even take the time to look for, you know, because he'll see the show so many times, and he'll edit the video in such a way where he'll make the characters make certain facial expressions when I say something that always is hilarious, and it's something I would never have looked out for, I would never have found. So, like, I think I think taking editors is fine if they are better than you, and they are, like, they understand your vision, like, just as well as you do, and can, or if you just like I like Devu's videos that he edits for me more than I like my videos that I edit for me. So, like, I would rather he edits them.
Yeah, and it's good to have an editor if it's clear that you're using it to make your content better or bigger or more voluminous. Like, I guess Kim Possible, it just feels lazy, but
I think you guys are trying too hard to justify using an editor. You can use an editor for whatever you want at any time. I mean, it's just about what you want your shit to be. If you just want to have people make your shit for you and you just want to produce collaborative works, that's fine.
I completely understand Jesse not wanting other people to edit his videos because the editing is often hilarious and has great stuff in it. But, like, if you're like me and you are just not good at editing, then maybe consider having someone who is good, doing it with you.
I mean, I think most of us agree that I'm one of the better editor among us. And even I'm willing to say that I don't think it's necessary to... I don't even think... I was going to say, like, you don't have to have the best video it could possibly be all the time. Like, you can...
I definitely have been moving away from putting too much effort into stuff.
Like, especially on YouTube, we're incentivized to make fast content.
Rule. Here we go. Okay. Jesse, how about this? How about this for the rule? Earn your editor. How about that?
Yeah, sure.
Or,
okay.
or at least pay them.
Well,
you gotta pay your editors if you're making money.
Well, if you're making money, you should be paying them. But what I mean by earn them is, I don't think KP does any work on her videos. I think the editors do all the work.
That's true.
Like, I remember specifically watching a video going, well, at least this is well animated.
What I hate is like how popular she personally seems to be for her videos that clearly aren't her. She didn't do it. She wrote the script and read it fucking not very well. Let's be honest.
All right, Jesse, do your next point.
Let's move on.
Fuck. I had something else to say, but I can't even. Someone's got to edit this.
We got to cut that out. I don't want to. Nobody here listen to what I said. Ignore that.
The next one is things that everyone has already fucking reviewed. Redundancy. Don't.
Right.
That's just don't do it. And the next 4 points are all actually redundant in themselves. So I'm gonna group them together.
He's a hypocrite.
Yeah. I'm grouping these together. Blank is overrated reviews. Controversial opinion reviews. Audience straw man bullshit, just in general, basing your review on other people's opinions. Don't do it. It's obnoxious
Yeah.
and it's gay.
I hate
a fucking
overrated
review
reviews.
should be your thoughts and no one else's. I actually had a video that was going to come out about this same subject, but I got to the editing process and I didn't feel like doing it, and I refused to hire an editor. So
you
it'll
made me
never
realize
happen.
another one that I want people to do, which is oh shit, I lost track of it. Oh yeah, don't do this thing where you're afraid of having your opinion polluted by watching other people's reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Watch everyone else's reviews.
Right.
Because if you do, like, people always say, like, oh, well, I guess I get it for, like, a guy like Yahtzee, where, again, like, it's really about his, like, very carefully curated style of opinion. Then, like, if you're watching the video because you want to hear that guy's thoughts and, like, nothing but that, then I can see it. But, like, if someone puts out a review 5 years late for a show, or even 5 months late for a show, 5 weeks, if everyone else has already reviewed it, watch all of their reviews and make sure that someone hasn't said what you're about to say.
Right, or else
You
you're just
know?
wasting everyone's time, especially
Right.
your own.
Like, have something new to say. Don't just say the same thing everybody else
And you know what?
said,
I'm glad we brought this up, because this was a big reason why I was inspired to make my Gurren Lagann video, because every single video I ever saw has these disgusting little, like, oh, you know, it's good, but, like, there's all this obviously unnecessary shit. There's all these little, like, it's not that smart. And all the ironic thing is these people weren't that smart because they couldn't see the incredibly obvious shit that all of us did when we watched it. And so
Yeah.
this was an example of having to do something like this show is loved but still vastly underrated for what it actually accomplishes, which
And I
was
mean,
bizarre to
that's-
me and had to be corrected. So
That's
you know?
exactly why I started doing my like with Evangelion. Like, I
Yeah.
was so worried for a long time that I was like, everyone's already talked about Eva, and it's not going to be worth it unless I either say absolutely everything or say something new.
Right.
And then it was sort of like gradually realizing that there was a lot less Eva analysis out there than I thought, you know, and then like
Yeah.
trying to come at it from like somewhat new angles, or just sometimes it's just like representing something that's not in that medium. Like, I'm willing to do
Sure.
a video on a subject that I've read a lot of reviews about, but no one's made a video out of it because I think that people don't go back and don't read text, you know.
Sure, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's a few like Ghost Lightning posts that I outright just want to adapt into video because like it'll exist in this medium now.
I think that's a good idea. They'll probably get a lot more exposure that way anyway.
All right, so Jesse, you finished off your list, right?
No.
Oh, geez, how
okay.
many more?
My list is eternal. It's endless, like me.
Okay. All right, well, let's
All right,
do the
what's
next
next?
one.
The next one is blatantly missing the point of what you're talking about. Example.
Sure.
Example is Evangelion sucks because the characters are unlikable. Fuck you dumb shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like reviews that are obviously wrong. Not a fan.
Like, you could say the characters are unlikable. ... I know that's the
Well, like,
intention, but
yeah.
I don't like it. Then that's
Yeah, that's
okay.
fine.
Well, I have a problem in general of people saying this character is bad, so the show is bad.
Well, that's
yeah,
going to get us
that's-
into part 2 of this podcast. So, part 2, people
Okay.
having their
I'm not
own
done
rules.
with my list, god damn it!
No, your list is going to apply to this as well, I think.
Okay.
Part 2 of this podcast, people's rules about shows. Like that one. That, like, here's the one that bothers me the most, and this is what made me want to do this podcast in the first place. My trigger is when someone says that the pacing is bad and then doesn't explain why. That is my number one trigger now
Yeah,
in
that's a
an
big
analytical
buzzword.
video. Is because people have taken for granted that a piece of work is supposed to be certain things, that it's supposed to be paced a certain way, that it's supposed to present its narrative in a certain way, the characters are supposed to be a certain way, and the only times people break from their pre-interpreted formula of what it's supposed to be is when it's obviously not supposed to be that, right?
Sure.
Because everyone loves art house movies and stuff where, like, you look at it and you go, oh, well, they obviously paced it differently because it's sending a message. But then when that's not obvious, people are like, it's just badly paced, you know?
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
drives me insane because it's like you're so close to getting it and not. Like, you clearly understand that every work is trying to do something different and that you should judge them on their own merits, but then you're trying to put all of them into a box at the same time. And it's like certain things are just the exception because you can tell it's art, You know, like, oh, well, obviously Ava's trying to do something different because it's Ava. Yeah. Whereas, like, if some, you know, late night TV anime that's like really weird and no one gets why, and they're just like, oh, it's just
Actually,
shitty.
That's one thing I should rephrase the wording of this rule. Instead of missing the point of what you're talking about, the rule should be saying anything negative about Evangelion ever for any reason, or disagreeing with me about anything.
You know, that's an important point to remember when interpreting the intentionality of a work, is that every single detail was intentional, whether or not the intention was smart.
Oh God, there you go. There's another huge one. This is another one that like immediately pisses me off, is when reviewers think that they are smarter than the creator.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Insane.
But said stupidly.
When does that come up? What's an example of that?
The worst game designer is categorically a more fulfilling artist than the best reviewer. That's my emotional
I don't think so.
opinion.
I disagree with that.
Maybe.
That's my emotional opinion. That's how I feel.
I think that a lot of bad art gets made in full self-awareness. I think that a lot of stuff, like, there are some cases where obviously the person just doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, if you look at, like, Birdemic or The Room, where, like, the creators really thought they were making, like, a masterpiece and really came out and said that, and then people were like, you're insane. Like, this is not good, you know?
Right.
That's a different story.
There's obviously a reason why he picked the individual gifts for the birds. Like, he's like, well, this one is pointing in this direction, which will make more sense than that direction.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about, like, in the broad sense, you can tell the guy doesn't appreciate what's bad about his movie until people told him, you know? But I think that a lot of creators make stuff, like, especially professionals, like, if we're talking about, like, an anime show gets made, right?
Yeah.
And, like, the plot is full of plot holes, the guys who wrote it probably know that. Like, they are professional writers who are in the industry. They're not trying to write a 10 out of 10 every time. They're trying to write something. And, like, you know, okay, like, I have this video series on the Asterisk Score, right? And there's a bunch of parts in there where I talk about how, like, my problems with A1 Studio. But my problem is never that I think they're ignorant of these issues. I think they know exactly what they're making.
Which is much worse, really.
They have to, because it's just their job. You know, like, they're doing it. And if you look at, like, if you listen to a lot of interviews with, like, Japanese creatives and stuff, they very often make it clear that, like, everything was intentional. Like, the style of story like, Japan is very, like, demographically driven and very, like, genre driven. Where, like, if they're making a show about beautiful girls, it's a beautiful girls show. You know, like, they'll call it that. Like, that's the concept they went at it with, was, oh, we wanted to make a beautiful girls show, so we came up with a story, and here's what it is, you know? And, like, everything else is kind of incidental to the fact that it's a beautiful girls show. You can make a great show on that basis, like something like Gurren Lagann. They went at it like, we want to make a mech show. Or Eureka 7, which was, we wanted to make a video game that had an anime tie-in, and here's what we made, you know?
Wait, what? Did they do that?
Yeah, a lot of anime is based on it being a franchise where, like, they, like, with Eureka 7, it was like, we want to make a video game and an anime with this robot designer, so let's come up with them, you know?
Huh. And then I didn't actually play the first video game of that. I didn't know it was, like, I thought it was just a derivative work afterward.
No, but the thing is that, like, it's different teams working on each, right? And, like, the people who made the game didn't make an amazing game that we'll remember for all time, but the people who made the anime did, you know? But, like, it just happens that, like, I think everyone knew what they were doing. Everyone works on these things just like, well, maybe it'll be good, and then they make something, and sometimes it just happens to come out really amazing, and they're like,
here's
sweet, we actually
here's how you
did
put it
it,
in one of your old videos. One of the best points in your really old Pony videos was, nothing is made thoughtlessly. It's just that some things are made with stupid thoughts. But it wasn't like they didn't even think. That's impossible.
Every single problem in My Little Pony, for instance, has been acknowledged by the writers. They're completely aware. They're like, yeah, we had to do that because Hasbro mandated it. Or, yeah, we had to do that because we didn't have time to fix it, you know? Like, like the episode 15 of season 1, Feeling Pinky Keen, the one where she's got the powers, like, the writer of that, like, he had written the episode. No, it wasn't that episode. It was one that's in season 3.
Or an even better example, Magical Mystery Cure, where Emily Larson came out and admitted that everything I said was correct.
Right.
Yeah, he wanted it to be
but,
2
like,
episodes. He just couldn't fit
the
it
one
in.
I want to talk about,
Specifically
though,
said, "Drowning in Horseshoes," the greatest reviewer in history.
But I'm not just talking about like studio mandates. There was one where it was the guy who wrote this one episode that was I think it was something from season 3. But it was a really shitty episode where the ending was like really confusing and backwards. And I asked the writer on Twitter like what was up with the ending, and he said like it was just a mix-up in the scripting and we couldn't fix it in time.
You know,
Oh,
I wonder if you
good.
could evaluate all the reviewers and then find get a robot to calculate which reviewers most often neglect the context of the fact that the writers are human.
Oh, here
And-
we go.
and then-
Mysterious
and then-
Mr. Enter. That's my
well,
biggest
and then
problem
test,
with him.
And then test to see if those reviewers who are more likely to do it don't make any art of their own outside of these YouTube videos.
Right.
Like if they're not the kind of kids who made, drawings that much,
What bothers
I wonder
me
if
the
that's
most
what they are.
about the few Mysterious Mr. Enter videos that I've seen is that he really focuses on the writer, and he'll be like, Megan McCarthy, how could you make this shitty episode? And I'm like, I am absolutely sure that she knows all the problems with it. She wrote it. No one is more intimately familiar with their flaws than the creator. And I think we can all attest to this, right? Every flaw in all of our videos, we know what it is. Like, I know.
And in fact, many problems that people don't interpret as problems, we do see them as problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
take
every video
that's
I've ever
one for
made,
the commenters
there's
to take to heart. We know better than you what the fuck is wrong with our videos.
Every single time I flub a word in my script, I find it because I edit the video. So, like, I record this long script and I edit it together, and then I hear where, like, I skipped a word at one part, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And then every time I watch the video, all I can think about is that. Sometimes we just don't get around to fixing the problems. And I think a lot of, like, really professional stuff, it comes from that place, like with anime especially, because it's all churned out on like a schedule. You can't just go back and fix it. You have investors. There's people, a time slot picked out, If you get to episode 12 in your writing and you don't have time to fix the plot hole, then it's just fuck it, we're shipping it. Like, we can't not. It's too far along. And I think so few people appreciate that, and they act like, oh, this writer's such an idiot, how could you do this thing? And it's like, I assure you they're aware of it.
Now that's true. That's true. You shouldn't assume those things, but you should
Mr.
still,
Enter,
of course,
I've heard that
incorporate those into your thoughts on the overall show.
For Mr.
Right,
Enter,
it's not
like
I've
you should
heard that
just forget
he's felt bad about a lot of his old reviews and has like taken them down. I think because his Patreon
Good, he should
is
take
so
down his
low,
whole
he
channel.
feels
Fuck
bad.
him.
So
Yeah, I think I as I've said, oh shit, I lost my train of thought because you brought up Mr. Enter and I forgot what I was gonna say.
This is what Mr. Enter does to the community.
Well, speaking of Mr. Enter, the next item on my list happens to be overly complex scoring systems.
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
Get the fuck out of here with your,
He's
it
got the
gets a
5
3 out of 5
exclamation
for
points.
sound design and
Yeah.
a 2 out of 5 for voice acting, a 4 out of 5 for graphics. I don't know what piece of
CG
media
versus
has those
2D.
criteria.
Yeah, fuck that. Just talk about the thing. And here's what bothers me about rating systems is that they should always be fluid, and therefore they should never be in a video. Like, if I watch a show that's a 10 out of that I consider a 10 out of 10, and then a month later I watch a show that I consider to be much better, and that's now my 10 out of 10, then my old score is completely irrelevant.
I'll
and
put
like,
it this way: if I have sex with a hot girl and I'm bragging to all my friends about it, which happens often, as these guys can attest to.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But if I have
define
sex,
hot.
well, that's what I'm about to do. If I have sex with a hot girl and I'm bragging about it like a douchebag, as I am, I don't go, well, her tits were a 5 out of 10, but her butt was a 6 out of 10, and then...
No,
I
rate
give her
tits 2 out of 2.
one numerical value and only one for the whole package, because people are not a bunch of separate, compartmentalized things. People are wonderful, beautiful creatures, even when they're like a 6 out of 10.
Yo, that bitch
you
couldn't
gotta
give
base
much
it off
head,
the
but her
whole-
pussy game, man. 10 out of 10 on that shit.
10 out of 10 on
here's-
that pussy game.
Here's where I think that every scoring system falls apart when you try to do it that way, right? Because
Yeah, it's shit.
at some point, and on my anime list, one of the scores that it's like sound, video, character story, and then enjoyment. And enjoyment is such a weird thing because
then overall
I
it's a
loved the
separate
music,
score,
but overall
right?
enjoyment was pretty shit.
Yeah, but here's the thing. To me, enjoyment really means context, right? And
Yeah.
here's the thing. If I watch a show like, let's say, Lucky Star again, and the context is super important to why I like the show, and then another show that I still think is amazing, but there's like no context into why. Like,
Yeah, what if I watch a show with all my best friends and I give it a 10 out of 10 versus
Right.
someone else who watched a show like alone and they had just been shot and they're currently bleeding out? Like,
Yeah.
okay,
But,
his
like-
enjoyment was a 0. Didn't
yeah,
like the
and
show.
I think the thing is, I think that's another one of those cases of like being so close to getting it, but not quite. Where
Yeah.
it's like you get that there's an ephemeral factor to why you like stuff, but you try to then define that, and it's like those scores mean nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
The context should not have a score. It should just be a part of why you like the thing. You know, like the context is inseparable from the work. But like, I don't think like if I watched like Kaiba and it didn't have any special additional context score, so that's just a 0, and then Lucky Star it's a 10, and then it's like, oh, well, am I supposed to weight that against the other? Like, am I supposed to go story 9, characters 9, art 9, sound 9? Context 0, and then take the average of that, and it completely fucks up the score. It's like, no, it's,
Digi, you've been
indefinable.
getting towards something about just the general consumption of media and sorting your feelings on it that has been like one of the best things that you've indirectly taught me is do not hold on to your opinions. Don't hold them as precious. Let them flip at the drop of a hat because it's way more satisfying.
Oh man,
Because
that's also another.
That's
once
a good
one.
someone, especially an amateur reviewer, gives something a 10, they feel an obligation. I used to feel an obligation to make sure that I always continue to like it. And if there was any doubt, I would start rationalizing to myself, no, it has to still be a 10. It has to be.
That's the danger of the rating
Nothing
system.
is worse to me than when someone has a narrative opinion that has clearly been like too long in the works. Like when you like you said, like they have their favorite anime that they watched like 5 years ago, and they continue to compare everything to that, even though if they watched it again, then they have to like I've seen it where people like rewatch something and immediately realize they don't love it as much as they did before, but because they gave it a 10 once, they don't want to admit they were wrong before. And so they keep talking about it like, I don't like it as much now, but I mean, it's still the greatest thing I've ever.
Well, I think part of it is feeling like they don't want to be wrong, but I think more importantly, it's the feeling of they have an obligation to be loyal. They don't want to abandon it. But like, okay, Digi, for example, you did a full playthrough with your brother on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. And it was your favorite game as a kid. And
a lot of people remember that game very fondly, even though it's objectively shit.
You have no trouble reconciling the fact that you think it's a terrible game now, but you thought it was an amazing game then, and you can simultaneously appreciate your nostalgia for it while also hating it. You don't have to continue to say it's good in order to enjoy your nostalgia for it. So, and it's so much more satisfying to just let your favorite stuff change constantly. Like Movie Bob's favorite game is still Super Mario Brothers 3, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding? I don't care that you have your favorite game forever. The idea that your favorites change constantly,
pretty boring.
I mean, I
way
think
more
it's
interesting.
I think it's both possible and probable to actually have a favorite forever if it's just something that's so special to you.
And that's why letting you like. I think that Digi, if you were to rewatch any show you gave a 10 and you didn't like it as much, you would have no trouble, no hesitation giving it an 8 or a 7.
Yeah.
And you would totally take things off your favorites list, rearrange it, which is why the fact that K-On! Has been at your top for like 5 years is so impressive.
It has not been up there for 5 years. But
it's faltered here.
It's been a little while.
It's been for 3 or 4
years. It wasn't
years.
even when I first watched it. I didn't even consider it my favorite show of that year. I actually...
Well,
I
however many years it is, it's
place,
very impressive that it actually has managed to regain that position.
Yeah, it's and like I changed stuff up so much, but yeah, like I think that it's possible to have a favorite because of the context around it, and like that it's been with you for so long that's why it's your favorite. But again, it has to be genuine. Like my friend Ghost Lightning, his favorite anime has been Super Dimensional Fortress Macross for like 27 years or something like that. But he rewatches it all the time and like reaffirms his feelings and finds new reasons that it's his favorite and like recontextualizes it and like has all these different reasons. Whereas everything everything else in his favorites list changes all the time. You know, it'll be like, oh, I just watched Utena, and now that's my number 2 because I
you
can't
have to ask
believe it's
yourself
real.
a question though: is it even possible that show he could learn something about it, or that something else would like beat it out? Considering all the investment he's now put into loving that show.
That's the thing. I think that's valid though. Like I don't think it's that he's blind. Like he's very openly admitting like I don't expect anyone else to feel this way, but here's why I feel this way.
It's not like you're not allowed to do that
right.
or anything.
Like there's so much to why he likes it that he can go on and on and on all day. Like I've listened to him talk for hours about Macross, you know.
And of course, it gets worse when like a fan community. This is a more recently exacerbated problem when fan communities show up on Tumblr. And
oh god, let's not even get into fan communities. That's a whole other.
Well, the point is, it makes people even more invested, and it means that like people have to keep.
It's that much harder
about,
to get out of it.
Right.
Like Undertale is a single-player game with a few different story paths, and once you're done, you could probably put it down for a year and come back to it. But because so many people just draw comics and no one cares, but then they draw Sans crying and people care, and so now they have to keep caring about
Mage
Undertale
says currently
forever.
it's her favorite game ever. Would it be without Tumblr? No, definitely not.
Well, it would be my favorite game, but I wouldn't keep.
Yeah, it's a matter of you get trapped
all the time.
You get trapped in the idea that you're a fan of this thing, and that's like it becomes. I think the problem is just people taking things as their identity, like identifying themselves as a fan.
Right,
and I think that's how so many of those nostalgia things stick around for so long. Is like that, like, because my ex-girlfriend was pretty bad about this, where she like everything she liked as a kid was still perfect to her because she liked it as a kid. But then I would like literally watch her like rewatch something with her and like see the realization that I don't care about this anymore, but then she couldn't like admit it to herself because she'd identified
that was rough for me
it,
when I rewatched Pooh's Grand Adventure recently. That's a movie that had a lot of meaning to me and kind of shitty, kind of not that good.
But you know, like people just don't get it, which is why they like when you stopped being interested in My Little Pony that much, people were like, "You are betraying your identity. You are betraying the thing.
How
you are
fucked
betraying
up is that?
Our entire religion. You must, if you no longer like this My Little Pony show that much, it's not a matter of
everything we knew about you must have been a lie as well.
You must be losing your grip on your sanity. They couldn't understand that
I
you could
have,
just move on to a different
I've had
show.
so many people like think that I became like a depressed and different person just because I don't watch the same cartoons anymore. All right, Jesse, what else is on your list?
Let's see. The next one is Flash over Substance. John Tron, what have you become?
These days he's the prime example of that.
You know what? I'm gonna say not just
sometimes.
It's not just Flash over Substance, because I think JonTron was always mostly like flashy jokes.
Sure.
But do it right. Like if you're gonna have like take into consideration what your production values mean. Like I've been saying this a lot, how JonTron, his set does not look like a house anyone would live in. And therefore, you
do
not
creepy,
have
dark brick fucking fortress.
Right, it's literally a set. And like when you watched JonTron's videos before, the idea was he's in his apartment playing video games. When you look at him on this set, you just think, why the fuck are you playing video games on a set? Why are you doing that?
And like talk about like completely undoing all the like comfiness of his old stuff. He's got like this like slave like extra he hires, and he's got like people coming in through the door and like dressed in these fancy costumes and shit. It's like, what the I mean, I actually like the Ethan Klein Kool-Aid thing. That was a good joke. That was funny. It was simple. It hit the point. That was everything that was good
like,
about JonTron.
He'll do these
funny guy.
He'll use these like HD cameras and stuff, and like have them like do these slow pans across. Pans are not funny.
It's too much.
You know, like wide angle shots are not funny.
Yeah, the close-up shaky cam zoom in on the face. That's funny. Like that's good stuff.
And it was like nothing will ever be funnier than like, oh my god, and the camera just zooming in on him, like making this facial expression. Like the face is funny, the camera mimics the joke. Having a slow panning shot of you in a weird set in HD, it's like this is what I would expect from a product shoot, not from a fucking comedy video, you know?
Well, here's basically how it works. The more details your joke has, the more every single detail has to be perfect. If your joke is bare bones, the bare bones can work. But if you're going to be complex, you have to be an absolute master in every single medium to make the joke land.
John got to this place by doing the opposite of what he's doing now, and now he's trying to apply that same formula, and it's not working at all.
Yeah,
it's totally wrong.
If you're going to up your production, you have to up your writing.
Yeah, like he can't be doing what he's doing now if he's gonna have all these high productions. He needs to do like, I don't know, something else.
Something that if you can't just have a set because it looks expensive. Have a set because the joke involves a set.
Like, man, I get so mad when I think about how much money he's wasting on this only to make much worse content. It infuriates me.
Do you think
it really hit me when he had a small horse pony on
what
the
the
set,
fuck, dude?
and the joke was, "I have a horse."
Yeah.
And
You know
it's
what would have
doing
been 10
things
times
to my set.
it would have been
and that was
100 times funnier if he had like one of his buddies in a shitty horse costume. Like that would have been so much better. Not cost like $1,000 for a day.
And the whole video wasn't about horses at all. It was just he had the opportunity to
when I
buy
say it,
a
I'm like,
horse.
I could never do this. This is
How much
unrelatable
funnier
to
would
me.
it have
rent
been
one.
if the joke had been like it was a guy on a horse and he was like who was dressed as a horse and he's like, look, I can afford a horse now, and then it's a guy in a horse costume. Like
that would have been much fun. It's like some Letterman shit, right? Like they bring out like celebrities and they like do retarded dances and shit. It's like it feels alien.
Do you think it's possible that B-Tongue has deliberately avoided buying good audio equipment to create the narrative that he's some random asshole throwing together something
No,
in movie?
I don't
in
think
this
so.
case, no. In this case,
I think he's just cheap and doesn't make any money off his videos.
He clearly doesn't prioritize YouTube.
I don't think that's the only reason, but I bet whenever he's considered getting good audio, he's like, well, if I keep it shitty, then I continue to look like a total jerk facehead, and like I wonder if that's part of the incentive.
I highly doubt
I don't
it.
think he
All
really
right.
concerns himself with his own YouTube narrative
There's
that
three
much,
more
but-
things. There's only three more things on the list. This one is reviewing people. Don't do
what's
it.
an example
It's
of
just
that?
mean.
Aren't we doing that right now?
No. It's like
No.
I mean, like specifically like, guys like Sargon of Akkad. Like all he does is like pick out people, and that leads me into the next one. Response. This is the main part of it that annoys me.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going.
Response videos that pause to make a glib comment about every fucking line.
Oh shit!
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are
God
Sargon of
damn.
Akkad. Even Thunderfoot kind of does it. He's better than most. Amazing Atheist. Shoe on Head. All of those fucking people. TLDR. That it is the laziest, like snarkiest, most asshole way you can possibly do it. Sometimes it's funny. I admit it. I've watched a lot. Sometimes they're funny, especially like when I agree with them and I'm like, hey, yeah, fuck those guys. They're completely wrong. I don't give a shit about their opinion. Like it feels good, but it's intellectually bankrupt to act like the other person is you're just mischaracterizing everything they're doing. You're acting like your opinion is the only one that has any value, and the other people are obviously
And
objectively
it's just
wrong.
so inherently
it's retarded.
smug and like self-satisfied.
And all these people are like shooting over 100,000 subscribers because people eat it the fuck up. Oh my god!
It's like the way that children communicate. Like you take everything a person says, you interrupt them and go, "Well, I know
Childish
you
is
are,
the
but what am I?
operative word.
You fucking piece of shit."
Yeah.
Oh, and another thing, if you're going to do it, one format that's especially bad is anytime you're talking, it's represented by a still image of your OC.
Oh god, yeah.
Everyone does that. Everyone does that.
Well,
now.
one guy,
How
like
fucking
11-year-old
lazy can you
kid,
be?
made that for my Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 video, and I
good.
commented so politely that he like deleted the video, deleted all of his videos that were like that, and apologized. And I'm like,
That
good
good.
on you.
Great example. I hate everything. We were talking about that the other day.
If you do the still, if you do the still image of your OC, you know,
And
fuck
your
you.
At least
OC
make
is
it nice
hideous.
looking.
YouTube is a
you know?
fucking visual medium, you lazy goddamn hacks.
I
Edit
hate
some
everything is
shit.
especially funny because he's talking about Derek saying, I'm actually a decent person and I don't hate everything and I love my work, and but the picture on screen is
Yeah. And I also want to say, like, I hate any like dehumanizing arguments. Like, assume even if someone says something that you completely disagree with, like, they probably have a reason and a background and like a reason that led them to that. And I understand being angry at people for being wrong and spreading misinformation, but like, we're trying to have a like, the way forward is conversation. Like, insulting people and making them look like idiots is not going to bring us closer to like YMS's response to Daddy Derek was perfect because he was
great,
like explaining to him, here's the things you've said that are wrong. He has this very calm demeanor, like,
He
I'm
didn't
trying
just
to explain it
assume
to
that
you.
everything was like obviously wrong. Like he didn't even need to explain it. He took the time and thought it out. It was good.
Well, he
Great.
clearly came from the perspective that YMS obviously thought Daddy Derek just is ignorant. Like, he didn't come at it like, this guy's an evil monster who's trying to fuck us out of our money. It's more like, Daddy Derek, you are ignorant.
which is
you
which
don't
is very
understand what you're
understandable,
doing to
having
us.
seen
you know?
Cool Cat saves the kids. It's very
Right.
Yeah,
understandable.
it's pretty obvious,
I
pretty
think
logical.
a great example of this that happened to us just yesterday is the Gaming Badger, who was railing on like Devu and Jesse Wood just because they said things that he doesn't agree with, and therefore he presents them like they are fucking idiots and won't like talk about it, and is all proud that Jesse blocked him on Twitter. And it's like, dude, you haven't.
Yeah,
you have
fun with
dehumanized
that.
your opponent.
Have fun
Yeah.
being proud of the fact that you're an annoying moron and somebody hates you enough to block you. Have fun. Go ahead and frame that on your fucking wall. I want you to fucking frame it so that you can look at it every day and it can fucking remind you what a stupid piece of shit you are. You dumb motherfucker. The day that Endless Jess blocked you for you was the most important day of your life, and for me it was Tuesday, motherfucker.
It's a good
Wait,
line.
who are you talking about?
I don't know.
guy-
some
Gaming
asshole.
Badger.
A
Wait,
gaming
but you
don't
know,
know who that is.
Let's move on.
Oh,
But real
I
quick,
see
I
what
want to
you're
say
doing.
I don't hate everybody who does that. I just think their videos are vapid. That's
Yeah,
you
I
know.
just
Fuck
like
they're
like
playing
I
the
said,
game, man. They're
I just
hustling.
want
So
your
do whatever you got to do.
videos. Great
Yeah.
minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss
Yes.
events. Small minds discuss people.
Was that Ellen Roosevelt or something?
I think it was Ellen DeGeneres, actually.
Yeah,
in her,
that's
in her,
right.
in her
Alright.
leading role as Dory.
All right,
let's move on.
Jesse.
Okay.
Next,
And the final, the final thing on my list, the number
Yes.
one worst thing that a reviewer can
Best
do.
for last.
Oh yeah.
Listening to jerks on the internet tell you how to make your videos.
Oh shit! Oh, it's a bombshell, people.
and that's an
nailed it.
You all
Now that's a
failed.
classic Jesse Wood self-aware kind of joke right there,
Exactly.
and that's why he gets all the subs. That's why he gets the big.
Oh
bucks.
yeah, all the subs.
yeah. Although, word of advice: take everything we've said in this video very seriously, and please consider it because I don't want to have to watch more shitty reviews.
But you know
Yeah.
what? I bet there are people who
You
already
know what?
suck that if they tried to follow this advice, for some reason it'll get even worse if they aren't true to their
Yeah.
crappy selves.
Please
Oh yeah,
consider
I'm not.
it, but-
I'm not saying write down notes of everything we said and then do exactly that. I'm just saying like let this inform your overall idea of what a review is.
It's all part of the artistic process. You put out the ideas that you think might work. You see how they do, and then you adjust, and you
and
find
better
out what
yet,
works.
just rip off all of us because we're all great, and that's
Yeah.
the only
Yeah.
reason. Like Devu said earlier, the reason that the five of us are friends is that we all love one another's videos. Like.
Yep.
The reason this friendship happened is because each of us were very big fans of what the others were doing, and so we all sort of became this like group.
Yeah.
And the reason that like it's just that we all have the same ethos and we all sort of understand reviews in
And
a
we've
similar
even
way.
kind of tried to like introduce other people that like weren't that and just put them in here, and it just doesn't work out. They just leave, you know,
because like I think you really need if you want to impress us specifically, please follow the rules we've talked about, and
Yeah.
maybe you'll become our best friend in the world.
Hey, you'd be in the procrastinators next
That's your
time.
incentive to make videos that I want to watch. Maybe I'll be your
That's
best
gonna
friend.
decentivize them.
Want to be with these
Yeah, all
fucking
right.
assholes? Nah.
Yeah, the egos are getting ridiculous right now. So I guess
By the way,
that
I think this is
pretty
our
much-
longest video, beating out episode 1 now.
Yeah, maybe only by a little bit, but yeah, we pretty much covered what I wanted to say about reviewers having rules. I guess my rule is just don't apply the same logic to everything. Like everything is made for its own unique purpose, and you should be looking for what is interesting and unique about that work. If you can watch a show and be like, well, the pacing sucked, it's like, by what metric? What are you comparing it to? What's the grounds here? I don't like it when people have like a very specific, this is what a show should be. Like that is so narrow-minded and puts everything in such of a same formula and box that it really disturbs me.
You need to talk about why what it attempted to do either succeeded or failed.
And it's one thing to say in pacing, or in passing rather, that the pacing bothered me. Like, but if you're like writing a review or analysis, you have to justify that. You have to justify that belief, because that's the point of a review. It's the point of a review or analysis is not to state your opinions, because I don't give a fuck about your opinions. It's to justify your opinions. That's the purpose, you know.
Yeah, to just want to say, if you haven't, if you've always wanted to like do reviews and stuff, don't let us like, well, all these rules like intimidate you into not trying. You're allowed to make a lot of mistakes and make a load of shitty videos.
Yeah, I mean, the only
We
way
all
to make
have.
good videos
Eventually,
is to make a
if
lot
you
of
keep
shitty
trying
ones.
to improve, you will.
Right.
And,
I think
That's generally how it works.
Of course, the number one thing is
Yeah.
do
Just
the
don't
videos you
send them
want
to
do.
me. That's the thing. Make all
Yeah.
those shitty videos. Just don't make me watch them until you're confident in them.
sure.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's obvious, but do the videos you want to do. Like, if you want to have an ultimate example, the new storyteller makes videos for himself and him alone, and he clearly really likes doing it.
Is that Sonic guy?
No, he's a guy who does.
No, that's that
Gumby
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh, that guy.
Oh yeah,
The cutest man on
that
YouTube.
guy. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
Everyone
He's
go
my
watch it.
favorite.
What was his name? Say it again so everyone
the
can
new
go watch.
storyteller.
the new storyteller.
The
Go
man who has
subscribe to
made
that man.
well over 10,000 Thomas the Tank Engine.
He is the
skits.
most prolific person ever.
He makes
and,
like
and-
3 a day. It's
And they're
ridiculous.
long.
Yeah,
And
they're,
edited.
they're each like 2 hours. It's fucking.
So, do what you want, because I think a lot of people just really like making boring videos, and if you just want to
Yeah.
come to terms with that, maybe you can
Oh,
learn how to embrace.
I have
the
no
things
qualms
that you
with
like.
anybody who does something just because they want to, like, just because
Right.
it seems like.
But
I
you
have
see-
problems with people who want to be famous or they want to be
Yeah.
in the reviewer circles or they want to be just like their idols and then they completely misinterpret it and do
Well, because you see,
a bunch
for
of
me,
later
the
shit,
number
you know?
one of my biggest incentives for being on this, for what I'm talking about here, is there's this guy who does really basic videos, very basic videos that tell me nothing, but then he also feels bad because he can't come up with ideas and he doesn't understand that he's like unsatisfied with his videos, but he's not trying to pursue something interesting. He
What do
thinks
you
he's
do with
supposed
people
to be
like that, dude? You
professional.
tell them just like keep trying.
I tell him
try new shit, dude.
there was a great
So-
Ernest Hemingway
think-
quote that I just saw on Twitter today, which was,
Mm-hmm.
"If you think you want to be it was anyone who wants to be a writer but doesn't write doesn't."
Sure.
You know, if
Sure.
you think that you want to be a writer but you don't like writing, don't try to write. And that's exactly what happened to me. We were discussing this last night that I didn't, for a long time I thought I was going to be a filmmaker. I thought I was going to be a novelist, and I really for like years put myself in that mindset that that's what I was going to do. And then I just didn't write. And at some point I woke up to the fact that like if I'm not writing, like everyone who is a good writer who writes like professionally, all they like to do is write. Stephen King pumps out a book every year because writing is literally all he likes doing,
Yeah,
If it doesn't come, like if it's not something that you innately want to do, then maybe it's not for you. Like if it's something you have to force
Right.
yourself and you don't even enjoy it and you just feel like you have to because it's obligated,
Because
like
this shit is hard fucking work. This takes
Right.
a long
And,
ass time to make
like
something.
all of my videos are completely out of like I can't live with myself not sharing these opinions,
Right.
Yeah.
Jesse's especially. Jesse is the most like I can't do anything but make videos and therefore that's what I'm gonna do guy,
Yeah.
Yeah, like if your only way to make, like, let's say by default you make your videos shittily, like they don't have good production values, but if by making the videos well produced and following these rules that we've outlined makes it completely not fun for you, like obviously making the videos good takes a lot of work and it gets really tedious, but if the work completely drains your enjoyment of it, then just make shitty videos,
Yeah.
because then
Yeah,
those videos would
And-
have more soul,
And just don't
and soul
cry
counts
about
for
them.
something.
Make shitty videos and don't
Yeah.
complain that you're not popular and don't send them to people and just
Don't
make them
complain
for
that we're
yourself.
making fun of
Remember
you.
the number one golden rule, everybody. The only one that is really important. The only audience that matters is you, yourself. Fuck everyone else. The audience is always wrong. Everyone can go fucking take a long walk off a short pier. Anyone who tells you what to do or fucking fuck them all. Fuck them. The golden rule, as always. Dr. Horseshoe's
cut
golden
out.
rule.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
You cut
I'm
out
sure
there
his
for a
shit
second,
recorded.
but all right, that's it, everybody. See you next time on the Procrastinators podcast. Hopefully, you gained some insight into this, or just enjoyed the catharsis of listening to us beat up on people.
Wait, when did I cut out?
Yes.
I was saying some real shit. I just
Yeah,
laid
it cut out
down.
your
As
golden
soon as you
rule.
said your big point,
It was your
cut
Skype
out.
I just
connection.
laid down
everyone.
the most inspirational shit, and now
And
no
we'll
one
never
will ever
know.
hear it.
But it'll
Actually,
be
no.
it'll be in the recording though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I guess
Rest-
Oh
so.
yeah.
Okay.
Rest easy, my friend.
You're gonna get the
our-
recording. It's gonna be like, remember.
All right, let's all stop our recording.
Wait, no. All right, everybody, say goodbye. Bye.
Bye, B.
Bye.
This part of the game is very, very serious. And then it cuts to him, and it's like, oh, what the hell? That was so awful! How do I get over this hill? Ugh!
I'm just making fun of myself at this point, practically.